Don't respect or trust anyone who does these 15 things. Trust once lost is hard to regain. Have you ever noticed that sometimes the smallest actions reveal the deepest truths about someone's character? We often believe we know the people around us, especially those we respect and trust. But then, through subtle behaviors and small gestures, some reveal they might not deserve that trust at all. It's unsettling, isn't it? Thinking you're surrounded by people who support you, only to realize that hidden behaviors can cause real harm. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. We'll uncover 15 specific behaviors that, if you see them in someone close, might need a second look. These aren't mere lapses or human flaws. They're recurring patterns that can signal something deeper and potentially damaging. By the end of this video, you'll gain clarity on who truly deserves your trust and respect, equipping yourself to make more intentional choices about who should be in your life. So, get ready. What we're about to reveal might surprise you more than you expect. 1. Be careful with overly friendly people. Have you ever wondered why some people seem just a little too friendly, almost like they're forcing a connection? It's wise to approach individuals like this with caution. Often, they're more focused on maintaining an image than on building genuine relationships. This exaggerated friendliness can sometimes be a mask, a way to disguise their true intentions and motivations. At a gathering, and there's always that one person who seems determined to win everyone over. Someone who goes out of their way to agree, compliment, and charm each person they meet. Yet, when the time comes for real support, they're nowhere to be found. This behavior isn't random. At heart, people who are overly friendly are often more invested in appearing trustworthy and likable than in actually being reliable friends or colleagues. They're not giving you their true selves, but rather a performance designed to make you think they're trustworthy, loyal, and reliable, qualities we instinctively respect. But their friendliness is frequently a front. They're playing a role, crafting an impression, rather than sincerely investing in you or the people around them. They might seek constant approval, going so far as to avoid any firm stance on important matters, simply because their priority is maintaining this friendly image rather than standing by any solid values. This can leave you in the lurch when critical decisions or difficult situations arise. You're working on a project and need a teammate to make a decisive call, but instead of acting, they hesitate, trying to appease every viewpoint without really contributing a solid opinion. The project falters because of their inability to stand firm when it matters. Their indecisiveness compromises the outcome and highlights their lack of authenticity, making you question the trust you once placed in them. And more than that, this superficial friendliness can even be a tactic to manipulate perceptions. By acting overly warm and approachable, some people aim to quickly build trust, only to leverage it for personal gain later. This over-friendliness can also impact their integrity in more significant ways. They often prioritize keeping up their charming facade over expressing genuine opinions or standing up for what's right. They'll bend their views, align themselves with the dominant voice in the room, and avoid conflict at all costs because, to them, conflict threatens the friendly image they've worked so hard to create. It may sound harmless initially, but in a moment of need, when you need real feedback, a genuine opinion, or unwavering support, they'll prioritize maintaining the peace or blending in with the crowd over offering you authentic advice or standing by your side. And if you confront them, they might even twist the conversation, suggesting you misunderstood them or that they were simply trying to keep everyone happy, leaving you feeling more confused or worse, doubting your perceptions. This behavior highlights an important lesson. Friendliness, on its own, doesn't equal trustworthiness or respect. Authentic friendships are built on mutual investment, on showing up when it matters, not just for appearances but with genuine concern and commitment. True friends or colleagues will stand by you even if it means going against the grain. So the next time you're faced with someone who's eager to be everyone's friend, pay attention. Are they willing to be real with you? Are they invested in the relationship, or just in being seen as someone everyone likes? Genuine people won't manipulate perceptions to gain a superficial trust. They'll be transparent, even when it's uncomfortable, because they value authenticity over appearance. The key takeaway? Trust isn't something to give lightly or based on someone's charisma or eagerness to please. Look for consistency, for people who are there in challenging times as much as in easy ones, who offer real perspectives even if it disrupts harmony. The lesson here isn't to distrust friendliness altogether, but to recognize that true respect and trust are earned, not freely given to someone who only appears to care. When you focus on building relationships with those who value honesty and integrity, you cultivate a circle of trust that's unshakable, based not on the facade of friendliness, but on the foundation of respect and sincerity. 2. Beware of manipulators. A manipulator is one of the most treacherous characters you can encounter in life. These individuals have a rare talent for reading people, detecting others' vulnerabilities, and using them as tools for personal gain. At first, they may seem like the most caring, supportive person in the world, showering you with attention and making you feel uniquely valued. But this kindness has a hidden cost. Once you've placed your trust in them, they'll twist it to their advantage, sometimes in ways so subtle that you won't even realize you've been used until much later. As Marcus Aurelius wisely noted, it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor, reminding us that people driven by self-interest often conceal their motives behind a mask of empathy or generosity. Manipulators are masters of disguise. They often appear as good listeners, giving thoughtful advice or lending an ear to your troubles. However, they are not truly listening to understand or support you. Instead, they're gathering information, stockpiling details about your insecurities, your hopes, and your fears, all with the intent of using it against you. Have you ever noticed how someone may keep resurfacing personal stories you shared in confidence, subtly spinning them to influence your decisions or emotions? This isn't accidental. It's a well-worn strategy of manipulation. These individuals know how to be subtle, often cloaking their actions in just enough genuine warmth to make you doubt your instincts. Have you ever second-guessed yourself after realizing someone might be using your words against you, only to brush it off because they seemed so friendly? Manipulators rely on this doubt, knowing it often buys them even more access to your life. To maintain control, manipulators use a variety of tactics that often leave you feeling emotionally drained and questioning your own perceptions. They might guilt-trip you or use emotional blackmail, framing their needs in such a way that you feel selfish or insensitive for not complying. Think about the friend who constantly reminds you of everything they've done for you, hinting that you owe them support in return, even when their requests start to feel unreasonable. In a family member who always brings up past grievances, casting themselves as the victim to get you to bend to their wishes. This type of emotional manipulation can be exhausting and demoralizing, eroding your sense of self-worth over time. If you're not careful, you may start to lose sight of what you truly want and begin acting out of guilt, anxiety, or obligation instead of genuine care. A key characteristic of manipulators is their adaptability. They shift behaviors depending on whom they're dealing with. Around those they want to impress, manipulators are often charming, attentive, and full of compliments. Yet, when there's no benefit to be gained, their warmth turns to indifference, leaving you confused and wondering if you did something wrong. This inconsistency is one of the clearest signs of manipulation. True friends and genuine people remain consistent in their interactions, treating you with respect regardless of circumstance. Have you ever dealt with a coworker who was friendly when they needed a favor, but became distant as soon as their need was fulfilled? This is a classic tactic, and it's a reminder that authentic relationships are not transactional. Seneca once advised, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." Manipulators are the opposite of this ideal. They drain rather than uplift. Instead of encouraging growth, they keep you tethered, subtly undermining your confidence so you'll continue to rely on them. Manipulators often maintain this control by keeping you uncertain, giving just enough affection or support to make you feel valued but withholding enough to make you crave their approval. Reflect on this. Are you investing time and energy into someone who consistently leaves you feeling uncertain or uneasy? A healthy relationship doesn't leave you feeling insecure. It provides a foundation of trust and mutual respect. It's also important to remember that manipulators frequently exploit empathy, framing themselves as misunderstood or victimized to elicit sympathy and sway your decisions. They might even twist situations, making it seem as if you're being unreasonable for questioning their motives or setting boundaries, when you might confront a friend about their behavior, only to have them turn it around and accuse you of being overly harsh or unkind. This tactic, known as gaslighting, is a way for manipulators to avoid accountability, making you question your judgment and sometimes even your sanity. This deceptive behavior is a form of control that can chip away at your confidence and self-trust over time. One way is to set clear boundaries and pay close attention to how people react when you say no or assert your needs. Authentic friends will respect your limits. Manipulators will push back, trying to guilt or pressure you into compliance. Genuine relationships are built on a balance of giving and taking, while manipulative ones are skewed, often leaving you as the one giving far more. Epictetus reminds us, know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly. Understanding your worth and staying true to your principles makes it harder for manipulators to shake your sense of self. At the end of the day, trust and respect must be earned, not freely handed out to those who seem pleasant on the surface. Manipulators thrive on appearances. They craft a persona that's difficult to resist. But by practicing awareness and staying true to your own values, you can avoid the trap of misplaced trust. Are the people in your life genuinely supporting you, or are they subtly steering you toward their own ends? Trustworthy individuals will be there for you through both ups and downs, showing consistency, honesty, and care, while manipulators reveal themselves through inconsistency and a lack of genuine empathy. Don't let charisma or charm alone win you over. Watch how people treat you when they have nothing to gain, and remember that actions speak louder than words. If someone's behavior leaves you feeling confused, insecure, or exhausted, it may be time to reevaluate that relationship. Surround yourself with people who respect your boundaries, encourage your growth, and value you for who you are, not just for what you can provide. By focusing on authentic connections, you empower yourself to make choices that align with your true self and foster a life of respect, integrity, and genuine trust. This manager's lack of empathy doesn't just affect individual morale. It has a ripple effect, eroding trust, respect, and ultimately team performance. In these cases, empathy isn't just a nice-to-have, it's a foundational quality that separates supportive leaders from toxic ones. The absence of empathy in a leadership role creates a hostile and demotivating workplace where employees are likely to feel undervalued and resentful. The philosopher Seneca advised, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." When we encounter someone who fails to show empathy, it's evident they don't embrace this belief. They may respond to others' struggles with judgment rather than compassion, often seeing weakness where there is vulnerability. This attitude doesn't just impact personal relationships, but can have far-reaching effects professionally. If you work alongside someone who disregards others' needs or concerns, they might take actions that benefit themselves while disregarding the well-being of others. Imagine a colleague who doesn't hesitate to throw someone under the bus if it helps them advance. Such actions reveal a profound disregard for teamwork and mutual respect, which are the cornerstones of a healthy work environment. A person without empathy will rarely be a reliable partner, friend, or colleague, because they lack the capacity to genuinely value others beyond their utility. Furthermore, individuals lacking empathy often make others feel as if their feelings are excessive or unwarranted, adding a layer of shame to natural human emotions. When someone brushes off your concerns or treats your challenges as trivial, it leads to a sense of disconnection and even resentment. The wisdom of Epictetus teaches us that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. Yet those without empathy seem to lack the willingness or ability to listen genuinely. Over time, This emotional distance can damage relationships beyond repair, as trust withers when we feel that our experiences and emotions don't matter. This cold detachment makes empathy essential not only for healthy relationships, but also for a balanced and fulfilling life. In the workplace, empathy distinguishes supportive leaders from those who drive teams solely for productivity. An empathetic leader recognizes the human side of business, understanding that people perform best when they feel respected and supported. A leader who imposes impossible deadlines or fails to recognize the personal challenges of their team members sends a clear message. Results matter more than people. In environments like this, trust and morale plummet, productivity suffers, and turnover rates increase. This lack of empathy ultimately harms the entire organization. On the contrary, leaders who take the time to understand and support their team create a positive atmosphere where employees feel valued, respected, and motivated to contribute meaningfully. In our personal lives, empathy is equally crucial. Without it, relationships become transactional, based only on what each person can gain. A friend who lacks empathy might disregard your hardships, leaving you feeling alone and unsupported in times of need. Over time, you may begin to wonder if they truly care for you or simply enjoy your company when it suits them. 3. Lack of empathy. A lack of empathy is one of the most alarming red flags in any relationship, personal or professional, and should not be taken lightly. Empathy is what allows us to connect with others, to step into their shoes, and to recognize and value their feelings. Without it, a person may go through life causing harm without ever feeling remorse or understanding the impact of their actions on others. This is akin to what the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius pointed out when he said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." A person who lacks empathy reveals a closed-off inward focus that prevents any genuine connection with others' experiences. You may have encountered someone who, when faced with another's pain or struggle, shows only indifference or even downplays it, leaving the suffering party feeling invalidated and alone. This lack of understanding reflects an emotional wall that shields them from the vulnerabilities of those around them, creating an environment where true trust is impossible. In relationships with such individuals, you often end up feeling like your feelings are dismissed or ignored, which over time builds frustration, isolation, and mistrust. How it feels when you approach someone in a time of need, perhaps seeking a listening ear or a comforting word, only to be met with cold indifference or, worse, outright dismissal. It's as if your emotions and needs are irrelevant. This reaction isn't just hurtful, it's a clear signal that this person is unwilling or unable to offer the kind of support that meaningful relationships demand. This detachment becomes even more troubling when you realize they may prioritize only what benefits them, with no regard for the impact on others. Picture a scenario at work where your manager is indifferent to the workload or deadlines, brushing aside any concerns as mere complaints. Do the people in your life show up for you during tough times, or do they disappear when things get uncomfortable? True friends demonstrate empathy by being present not just in moments of joy but in times of struggle as well. Seneca's words, "True happiness is to enjoy the present, without anxious dependence upon the future," remind us that relationships rooted in empathy and mutual care are those that foster real happiness and fulfillment. Empathy isn't just a desirable trait. It's essential for building trust, respect, and meaningful relationships. Whether in personal or professional settings, the absence of empathy signals a lack of genuine connection and often leads to environments filled with suspicion, resentment, and isolation. When we choose to surround ourselves with people who value and demonstrate empathy, we invest in a life of richer, more authentic connections. Empathy allows us to feel seen, understood, and supported, fostering resilience and trust. In a world often focused on individual gain, empathy is a reminder of our shared humanity and the importance of kindness. Remember, respect those who respect others' emotions, and place your trust in those who truly value connection over convenience. 4. Constant negativity. Constant negativity is like a dark cloud that hovers over everything, draining energy and casting a shadow over your well-being and ambitions. People who always see the glass as half empty can sap your motivation and affect your peace of mind. These individuals have a way of focusing on the negative side of any situation, no matter how small, which often leaves those around them feeling equally down. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts," reminding us that our outlook shapes our experience of the world. Yet those who carry a consistently negative attitude seem to ignore this wisdom, spreading an emotional heaviness that can become contagious. Think of the colleague who's quick to find a flaw in every idea, or the friend who shoots down plans before they even begin, always highlighting what could go wrong. Working or spending time with someone like this is not only frustrating, it can completely deflate your creativity and motivation, turning the atmosphere stifling rather than inspiring. You might find yourself questioning your own positive ideas or hesitating to bring up new ones, knowing they'll likely be met with skepticism. A workplace scenario where a team member consistently points out problems in every proposed solution. They're quick to criticize every suggestion, seeing obstacles instead of opportunities. In these situations, a single person's constant pessimism can bring down the energy of an entire team, making it difficult for anyone to stay motivated or feel valued. Negativity, especially when unchecked, can breed a toxic environment that impacts everyone, slowly chipping away at morale and productivity. Over time, you may notice the team's enthusiasm dwindling, innovative ideas stalling, and an atmosphere of discouragement settling in. In personal relationships, this constant stream of negativity can be just as harmful. When a friend or family member always reacts with a "yes, but" to every suggestion, they're not just resisting change, they're often closing themselves off to growth and deeper connection. This mindset of perpetual doubt can make you feel like you're walking on eggshells, hesitating to share joy or hope for fear that they'll squash it with another realistic outlook. The effects of such negativity often extend beyond words. They create an invisible weight that hinders progress and stalls potential. When you're surrounded by people who see only the downsides, you may start to adopt that same attitude, finding faults and limitations in places where you once saw possibilities. As the Stoics taught, perspective is everything, and dwelling on the negative blinds us to the opportunities right in front of us. Being around a negative person not only feels draining, it can also lead to a sense of discouragement that affects everyone involved. In group settings, like a work team, one member's negativity can be like a virus, spreading from one person to the next, gradually dampening the collective spirit and hindering progress. And unlike a physical ailment, this negativity often goes unaddressed because it hides under the guise of realism or prudence. Yet, there's a fine line between realism and cynicism, and those who constantly default to the latter create more obstacles than they claim to foresee. Constantly negative people also tend to resist change, clinging to complaints as if they were part of their identity. For them, any attempt at improvement or a new approach is met with skepticism or outright rejection. This reluctance not only holds them back, but also stifles those around them, making it incredibly difficult to move forward. Have you ever tried to share an exciting new idea with a friend who instantly responds with all the reasons it won't work? This response isn't just discouraging, it's a subtle but powerful form of resistance to anything that challenges the status quo. By staying in a mindset of doubt and complaint, they limit not only their growth but also risk stagnating their relationships, creating a cycle of frustration and unmet potential. In the end, it's essential to recognize when someone's negativity is affecting your own outlook and energy. As Epictetus reminds us, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. The way we handle negativity around us can make a significant difference in our lives. While it's natural to have occasional doubts, constant pessimism is a barrier to happiness, progress, and meaningful connection. So, what can you do when faced with someone who always sees the negative? Start by setting boundaries and protecting your own optimism. Remind yourself that their view of the world doesn't have to define yours. Seek out people who uplift, inspire, and challenge you to see the potential in every situation, rather than those who always point to what could go wrong. Life is too short to be weighed down by those who refuse to see its beauty and potential. Choose to engage with people who see challenges as opportunities, who focus on solutions rather than problems, and who encourage growth rather than resist it. Embracing positivity doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means choosing to focus on what you can change and to view setbacks as steps toward progress rather than as dead ends. As you build a network of supportive, open-minded individuals, you'll find that your own resilience and optimism grow, allowing you to lead a life that's not only more fulfilling, but also resilient in the face of adversity. Surrounding yourself with such people helps you foster an environment where growth and positivity thrive, making it clear that respect and trust are earned by those who not only see life's challenges, but also its boundless possibilities. If you've made it this far, you're a guardian of trust and integrity. Drop a comment saying, "I value true loyalty," to show you're committed to recognizing and avoiding toxic behaviors. Stick around, there's more wisdom to come. 5. Perpetual victimhood. Perpetual victimhood is an emotional trap that some people fall into, creating a cycle of blame and helplessness that can deeply affect those around them. These individuals repeatedly cast themselves as the victim in every situation, using their perceived suffering as a shield to manipulate others and to dodge accountability for their actions. They always seem to have a reason or excuse for why things go wrong, yet they rarely take a step back to recognize their own role in the circumstances. Think of someone in your life who's always blaming their boss for unfair treatment or labeling their colleagues as incompetent, never once acknowledging that perhaps their own lack of effort or mistakes might be part of the problem. This self-imposed victimhood isn't just harmful to them, it can be incredibly draining and frustrating for those who have to constantly interact with them. Perpetual victimhood sets up an environment where others feel compelled to carry the burden of the victim's happiness, leading to significant emotional strain. Have you ever had a friend who regularly comes to you with complaints, venting about life's injustices, yet when you need support, they're nowhere to be found? Over time, these one-sided relationships become exhausting. You may realize you're always the one providing support, lending an ear and offering solutions, without receiving anything in return. In the long run, such a dynamic can lead to resentment, as you recognize that this person isn't interested in changing their circumstances, but rather in continuously leaning on you. Marcus Aurelius's wisdom shines here. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Those caught in a cycle of victimhood refuse to acknowledge this truth, instead attributing all their troubles to external sources. What makes perpetual victimhood particularly toxic is that it often serves as a form of emotional manipulation. By constantly portraying themselves as the underdog or the oppressed, these individuals garner sympathy, attention, and support from those around them, reinforcing their behavior. Think about that family member who's always lamenting how difficult their life is, subtly expecting others to shoulder their responsibilities or take action on their behalf. By repeatedly framing themselves as incapable or oppressed, they can make you feel obligated to help them, even at the cost of your own well-being. Seneca warned against this when he said, "The greatest blessings of mankind are within us and within our reach." A perpetual victim, however, clings to the belief that life is against them, effectively denying their own capacity to improve their circumstances and, in doing so, ensuring they remain dependent on the help of others. In modern life, this type of behavior often shows up as a refusal to accept responsibility for one's own actions, which ultimately prevents personal growth. For instance, if someone always blames their lack of career progress on a biased supervisor or a toxic work environment without ever reflecting on their own performance, they're choosing to stay stuck rather than taking steps to improve. This refusal to look inward becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, where they continue to experience the same issues without making any effort to change. Perpetual victimhood acts as a shield from accountability, and as a result, these individuals rarely grow, mature, or develop resilience. In turn, those around them may begin to feel manipulated, drained, or even resentful, as they're constantly expected to provide sympathy and support without seeing any real change in the victim's behavior. For anyone in a relationship, whether personal or professional, with someone who practices perpetual victimhood, it's essential to set clear boundaries to protect your emotional health. Ask yourself, how often do you find yourself sacrificing your time, energy, and well-being to help this person, only to see the same complaints and issues resurface time and time again? Healthy relationships are built on mutual support and growth, where each person takes responsibility for their own lives. In contrast, relationships with perpetual victims are often one-sided, with the victim continually expecting emotional or practical help, but giving very little in return. It can feel as though you're carrying both your own load and theirs, which quickly becomes unsustainable and unfair. As Epictetus taught, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. Holding on to this principle, we can recognize that we are not responsible for others' happiness or for fixing their issues, especially if they are not actively seeking to improve their situation themselves. It's worth remembering that being supportive doesn't mean enabling someone's negative patterns. True support involves encouraging others to recognize their own power to change their lives. Constantly rescuing someone who doesn't want to take responsibility simply fuels their victim mentality and holds them back from personal growth. Real support empowers others, helping them to stand on their own, while enabling only deepens their dependency. If you're dealing with someone who constantly expects you to solve their problems without making any effort themselves, it might be time to reassess the dynamic. Healthy boundaries are necessary to protect your own energy, ensuring that your kindness isn't exploited, but rather leads to genuine, constructive support. Respect and trust should be reserved for those who are willing to take responsibility for their actions and their lives. Everyone faces challenges, but true strength lies in facing those difficulties without perpetually casting oneself as a helpless victim. Stoic wisdom reminds us that while we may not control everything that happens to us, we can control how we respond. If you find yourself surrounded by someone who clings to victimhood, remember that your support should lead to growth, not stagnation. Letting go of relationships rooted in perpetual victimhood is not only beneficial for your well-being, but can also be the wake-up call they need to take ownership of their lives. Surround yourself with people who embrace responsibility, resilience, and self-growth, and watch how your own strength and positivity flourish in their presence. 6. Irritating presence. Perpetual victimhood is an emotional trap that some people fall into, creating a cycle of blame and helplessness that can deeply affect those around them. These individuals repeatedly cast themselves as the victim in every situation, using their perceived suffering as a shield to manipulate others and to dodge accountability for their actions. They always seem to have a reason or excuse for why things go wrong, yet they rarely take a step back to recognize their own role in the circumstances. Think of someone in your life who's always blaming their boss for unfair treatment, or labeling their colleagues as incompetent, never once acknowledging that perhaps their own lack of effort or mistakes might be part of the problem. This self-imposed victimhood isn't just harmful to them, it can be incredibly draining and frustrating for those who have to constantly interact with them. Perpetual victimhood sets up an environment where others feel compelled to carry the burden of the victim's happiness, leading to significant emotional strain. Have you ever had a friend who regularly comes to you with complaints, venting about life's injustices, yet when you need support, they're nowhere to be found? Over time, these one-sided relationships become exhausting. You may realize you're always the one providing support, lending an ear, and offering solutions, without receiving anything in return. In the long run, such a dynamic can lead to resentment, as you recognize that this person isn't interested in changing their circumstances, but rather in continuously leaning on you. What makes perpetual victimhood particularly toxic is that it often serves as a form of emotional manipulation. By constantly portraying themselves as the underdog or the oppressed, these individuals garner sympathy, attention, and support from those around them, reinforcing their behavior. Think about that family member who's always lamenting how difficult their life is, subtly expecting others to shoulder their responsibilities or take action on their behalf. By repeatedly framing themselves as incapable or oppressed, they can make you feel obligated to help them, even at the cost of your own well-being. Seneca warned against this when he said, "The greatest blessings of mankind are within us and within our reach." A perpetual victim, however, clings to the belief that life is against them, effectively denying their own capacity to improve their circumstances, and in doing so, ensuring they remain dependent on the help of others. In modern life, this type of behavior often shows up as a refusal to accept responsibility for one's own actions, which ultimately prevents personal growth. For instance, if someone always blames their lack of career progress on a biased supervisor or a toxic work environment, without ever reflecting on their own performance, they're choosing to stay stuck rather than taking steps to improve. This refusal to look inward becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, where they continue to experience the same issues without making any effort to change. Perpetual victimhood acts as a shield from accountability, and as a result, these individuals rarely grow, mature, or develop resilience. In turn, those around them may begin to feel manipulated, drained, or even resentful, as they're constantly expected to provide sympathy and support without seeing any real change in the victim's behavior. For anyone in a relationship, whether personal or professional, with someone who practices perpetual victimhood, it's essential to set clear boundaries to protect your emotional health. Ask yourself, how often do you find yourself sacrificing your time, energy, and well-being to help this person, only to see the same complaints and issues resurface time and time again? Healthy relationships are built on mutual support and growth, where each person takes responsibility for their own lives. In contrast, relationships with perpetual victims are often one-sided, with the victim continually expecting emotional or practical help, but giving very little in return. It can feel as though you're carrying both your own load and theirs, which quickly becomes unsustainable and unfair. As Epictetus taught, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. Holding on to this principle, we can recognize that we are not responsible for others' happiness or for fixing their issues, especially if they are not actively seeking to improve their situation themselves. It's worth remembering that being supportive doesn't mean enabling someone's negative patterns. True support involves encouraging others to recognize their own power to change their lives. Constantly rescuing someone who doesn't want to take responsibility simply fuels their victim mentality and holds them back from personal growth. If you're dealing with someone who constantly expects you to solve their problems without making any effort themselves, it might be time to reassess the dynamic. Healthy boundaries are necessary to protect your own energy, ensuring that your kindness isn't exploited, but rather leads to genuine, constructive support. Respect and trust should be reserved for those who are willing to take responsibility for their actions and their lives. Everyone faces challenges, but true strength lies in facing those difficulties without perpetually casting oneself as a helpless victim. Stoic wisdom reminds us that while we may not control everything that happens to us, we can control how we respond. If you find yourself surrounded by someone who clings to victimhood, remember that your support should lead to growth, not stagnation. Letting go of relationships rooted in perpetual victimhood is not only beneficial for your well-being, but can also be the wake-up call they need to take ownership of their lives. Surround yourself with people who embrace responsibility, resilience, and self-growth, and watch how your own strength and positivity flourish in their presence. 7. Two-faced behavior. Two-faced behavior is one of the clearest indicators that someone cannot be trusted. This kind of person may seem friendly and charming when they are with you, but the moment you're out of earshot, they're quick to criticize or speak ill of you without remorse. The insidiousness of such hypocrisy lies in its ability to foster a false sense of security, making you believe you have an ally, only to realize that this person could betray you at any given moment. A colleague who praises you in team meetings but undermines your work behind your back. This isn't just dishonest, it's toxic, with the potential to harm your relationships and tarnish your reputation. Two-faced behavior doesn't stop at the workplace. It can easily seep into personal relationships as well. You might have a friend who is warm and supportive when it's just the two of you, but turns distant or dismissive of your achievements when you're in a group setting. This inconsistency leaves you wondering whether the friendship was ever genuine or merely a series of performances tailored to different audiences. People who engage in two-faced behavior often do so with an ulterior motive. It's a calculated move designed to manipulate others, shaping how they are perceived by displaying different personas to different people. They might present themselves as a victim to garner sympathy from some, while showcasing confidence and resilience to others, all depending on what will serve their interests best at that moment. This chameleon-like adaptability enables them to twist narratives, ensuring that they control how others view them. The most troubling part? These shifting masks draw you into a relationship woven from deceit, where trust is continuously eroded. How someone might confide in you about their struggles, painting a picture of camaraderie, only to later weaponize those confessions when speaking to others, spinning tales that cast themselves as the hero or you as the villain. This manipulative behavior often leaves you second-guessing yourself and questioning the nature of your interactions. I recall a story shared by a close friend, Alex, who experienced this firsthand at his former job. He worked tirelessly, earning commendations from his supervisor who, to his face, praised his dedication and promised him a future promotion. But Alex soon learned from coworkers that the same supervisor mocked his efforts in private and took credit for his ideas during executive meetings. The duplicity crushed his spirit, leaving him wondering why he hadn't seen through the charm sooner. This experience serves as a wake-up call for anyone who has found themselves lured by superficial niceties only to face betrayal later. Recognizing two-faced behavior and its effects is crucial. When someone consistently behaves this way, it's essential to reassess the value they add to your life. Maintaining relationships with such people can drain your emotional energy, as you find yourself constantly questioning their true intentions. Instead of getting caught in their web, be mindful of their actions and trust patterns rather than words alone. Notice who celebrates your successes when no one else is looking and who genuinely supports you without expecting anything in return. It's those who remain consistent, who are authentic regardless of the audience, that are worth your trust and respect. Ultimately, you deserve relationships built on honesty, integrity, and mutual respect. If someone's behavior consistently contradicts their words, take it as a sign to distance yourself. Who in my life shows me their true face no matter the situation? Remember that relationships rooted in honesty provide the foundation for true connection and growth, while those mired in duplicity only breed doubt and frustration. Surround yourself with people who uplift you in your absence as well as in your presence, and choose wisely whom you allow into your circle. The lesson is clear. Trust actions over promises and recognize that authenticity isn't something that can be masked or performed. It's a continuous, unwavering commitment. 8. Debate-provokers. Debate-provokers are those individuals who consistently seek to stir up arguments over controversial topics at the most inopportune times. They aren't interested in meaningful dialogue or understanding different perspectives. Their main objective is to create conflict and draw attention to themselves. These individuals thrive on chaos, using contentious topics as tools to disrupt peace and direct the spotlight to their opinions. Think about a calm family gathering. Everyone is enjoying their time when suddenly someone makes an inflammatory remark about politics or religion, fully aware that it will ignite an argument. This behavior doesn't just create unnecessary tension. It fractures relationships and breeds resentment. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Yet, dealing with these provocateurs tests even the most patient hearts, as their actions seem designed to elicit a negative reaction. In professional settings, These debate provokers pose an even greater risk. A colleague who constantly steers discussions toward sensitive or divisive topics can derail productive conversations, distracting the team from their shared goals. Imagine being in the middle of a crucial meeting, where focus is key, only for someone to insert a controversial statement out of the blue to spark reactions. Not only does this waste valuable time, but it also diminishes team cohesion and the efficiency of decision-making. Over time, this type of behavior chips away at trust and the cooperative spirit necessary for success. Marcus Aurelius, known for his reflections and meditations, urged, "If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth, which never harmed anyone." Yet provocateurs are less interested in seeking truth than in showcasing their superiority and reveling in the disorder they create. What motivates such behavior? At the heart of it is often an inflated ego and a relentless need to feel intellectually superior. Debate provokers believe their opinions are paramount and must be heard, no matter the discomfort it causes others. They may not even consider whether their comments could be hurtful or disruptive. What matters most is asserting their dominance in the conversation. This self-centered approach distances them from others and can foster an atmosphere where people avoid engaging with them entirely. A team member or friend who consistently instigates arguments instead of seeking genuine dialogue soon finds themselves isolated, as others become reluctant to interact with them. This raises a crucial question: is being right at any cost worth the loneliness that follows? I once heard a story from a friend about a coworker named Daniel, who epitomized the debate provoker archetype. During every team discussion, Daniel would steer the conversation into controversial waters, be it politics, social issues, or divisive industry opinions. What started as minor distractions escalated into full-blown debates that left the room divided and progress stalled. Initially, some colleagues engaged, believing they could reason with him. But soon they realized that Daniel's goal was not to exchange ideas but to dominate the conversation. As tensions grew, people became wary of speaking up around him, fearing their words would become the next topic of debate. The workplace environment suffered as a result, and Daniel found himself on the fringes, avoided by the very peers whose respect he craved. This story begs the question: is winning every argument worth losing the trust and camaraderie of those around you? Provoking debates can have deep personal and professional consequences, as people start to view the provocateur not as someone capable of productive dialogue, but as a source of stress and division. How do you deal with someone like this? One Stoic lesson that rings true here is to focus on your own response. Seneca advised, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." Craving attention through disruption leaves one poorer in relationships and peace of mind. Instead of allowing yourself to be drawn into their games, keep your reactions measured and don't fuel their need for conflict. Maintain your composure, stick to the topic at hand, and deflect attempts to escalate tension. Trust and respect those who value genuine conversation and aim to build connections, not those who seek only to ignite conflict for their own gain. Life is full of challenges that require real discourse and meaningful exchanges to overcome. Surround yourself with people who elevate discussions and aim to understand others, not just to be right. The strongest relationships are founded on open, supportive dialogue, not battles where only one voice emerges dominant. You deserve to be in spaces where you can speak, listen, and grow without fear of being baited into unnecessary disputes. 9. Frequent complaints. Frequent complainers tend to create an environment steeped in negativity, making it hard for anyone around them to maintain a positive outlook. These individuals seem to find a problem in every situation, casting a shadow that stretches over even the brightest days. Their pessimistic nature can be as contagious as it is draining. Imagine having a friend who, every time you meet, fills the conversation with a chorus of woes. The job is unbearable. Life is unfair. Nothing ever goes their way. While at first you might try to empathize or offer solutions, over time, this relentless cloud of complaints becomes exhausting. It's as if the world itself shrinks to fit the narrow, dim lens through which they view it. As Marcus Aurelius advised in Meditations, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This wisdom is lost on the chronic complainer, whose focus is fixed outward, always on what's wrong and never on what can be controlled or improved. It's important to understand that habitual complainers often don't seek solutions. They crave validation. This pattern of venting without action creates a cycle where they attract more reasons to feel dissatisfied and alienated. Picture a colleague who is perpetually lamenting their heavy workload but never takes steps to manage it better, request help, or prioritize tasks. Their complaints become self-fulfilling, sabotaging any opportunity for improvement and perpetuating their frustration. This creates a toxic loop that not only drags them down, but can also affect you, sapping your energy and optimism. The truth is, their constant focus on obstacles without seeking change turns them into their own worst enemy. As Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality," but complainers live as if every imagined difficulty is already reality. Moreover, this kind of attitude doesn't just impact the complainer, it casts a wide net over anyone within earshot. In the workplace, this means productivity suffers as morale dips. A team member who continually gripes about problems without offering solutions disrupts cohesion and dampens the enthusiasm of others. It's like being in a meeting where one person's incessant negativity derails the agenda, shifting the energy from problem-solving to collective sighs of frustration. When someone constantly points out what's wrong, they block the flow of constructive ideas and make progress feel impossible. Have you ever noticed how much harder it is to stay motivated when negativity fills the air? This echoes Epictetus's teaching. It is not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them. Yet the chronic complainer is trapped in their judgments, unable to see past them. In personal relationships, frequent complaining can have even more damaging effects. A partner who constantly finds fault or voices dissatisfaction can erode the bond of trust and affection over time. You might find yourself walking on eggshells, trying to avoid triggering the next wave of discontent. This can lead to feelings of inadequacy, as though no effort you make is enough to bring them happiness or peace. Over time, the emotional burden wears thin, and the relationship may start to break down, leading to emotional distance or even a complete split. It's essential to recognize when this cycle starts to affect your well-being. Are you investing your time and energy into someone who perpetually drains you without any sign of change or willingness to engage in solutions? One approach is to set boundaries while maintaining empathy. It's not about dismissing someone's struggles, but about encouraging constructive conversations. If you know someone who frequently complains, try steering the conversation toward solutions. This helps shift the focus from dwelling on the problem to considering potential actions. At the same time, be mindful of your limits. It's perfectly okay to step back when you feel overwhelmed by someone else's negativity. As the Stoics taught, protect your peace of mind by managing what you can control, your reactions and boundaries. In the end, it's vital to surround yourself with people who inspire and energize you, not those who pull you into their cycle of complaints. As you assess your circle, think about who lifts you up and who seems to pull you down. Are there friends or colleagues who find solutions and keep a positive perspective, even when faced with difficulties? Those are the ones worth investing your time in. Life is full of genuine challenges that require resilience and adaptability. Learning to manage complaints, both your own and those of others, can help you create an environment where growth and positivity are the norm. Surround yourself with those who understand that while not every situation is ideal, our response shapes our experience. As Marcus Aurelius wisely pointed out, dwell on the beauty of life, watch the stars, and see yourself running with them. Seek the company of those who remind you of this beauty, and be wary of those whose only gift is their endless list of grievances. 10. Exaggerated selfishness. Excessive selfishness can be the silent force that erodes the foundation of any relationship, whether personal or professional. When someone consistently prioritizes their own needs and desires over those of others, ignoring how their actions affect people around them, it reveals a stark lack of empathy and respect. This behavior isn't just about large, overt acts. It's often evident in the smaller, everyday choices that gradually chip away at trust. A coworker who always maneuvers to claim credit for team efforts, disregarding others' contributions, embodies this kind of selfishness, which inevitably sows seeds of resentment and distrust. Such actions tell everyone around them that they only see relationships as stepping stones for personal gain. The Roman philosopher Seneca wisely noted, "We should give as we would receive, cheerfully, quickly, and without hesitation." Yet, the self-centered individual lives by the opposite creed, taking without giving, benefiting without consideration. This kind of behavior is not confined to the workplace. It also creeps into friendships and personal relationships, where it can be even more damaging. Consider a friend who always insists on choosing activities that suit only their interests or who frequently asks for favors, but never reciprocates. It may seem minor at first, but over time, this relentless prioritization of their wants over yours sends a clear message: your needs don't matter. This imbalance becomes unsustainable, leading to a relationship that feels draining and one-sided. People who are extremely self-centered often justify their behavior by believing they inherently deserve more than others, which breeds arrogance and dismissiveness. They might act as if their opinions and desires hold more value, creating a toxic environment where others feel diminished. A manager who makes decisions solely based on their own career advancement, without considering the impact on their team, risks more than just employee dissatisfaction. They cultivate a high turnover rate and foster a workplace rife with tension. This ego-driven approach inevitably impacts the collective spirit, leaving employees disengaged and disillusioned. Think about it. How motivated would you feel working for someone who prioritizes themselves at every turn, disregarding the well-being of those who support them? As Marcus Aurelius once reflected, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." A self-centered person neglects this wisdom, choosing thoughts that center solely on themselves and thereby corrode the happiness of those around them. In more subtle forms, selfishness shows up in day-to-day interactions that, while seemingly trivial, accumulate into a damaging pattern. A friend who only calls when they need a favor, never just to check in, or a family member who expects help but isn't willing to lend a hand in return. These are the quieter signs of selfishness that speak volumes over time. Such behavior makes relationships feel transactional rather than authentic. Do you know someone who only seems present when it benefits them? Reflect on how that dynamic has impacted your perception of them. Over time, consistently prioritizing oneself above others not only isolates the selfish person, but also limits their potential for meaningful relationships and collaboration. The consequences of excessive selfishness aren't just immediate, they echo far into the future. While someone might temporarily gain by putting their own interests first, the long-term effects often include isolation and damaged reputations. A leader or friend who regularly exhibits selfish behavior will eventually find that people are less inclined to trust or support them. Even success achieved through self-serving methods tends to be fragile, as it lacks the strong, supportive network that helps sustain true growth and well-being. Can a person truly thrive if their victories come at the expense of others? As Stoic teachings remind us, living in harmony with others, cultivating respect, understanding, and mutual support forms the basis for lasting fulfillment. To protect yourself from the toxic influence of excessive selfishness, look for balance in your relationships. Seek out those who value reciprocity and understand that mutual respect is the bedrock of trust. Surround yourself with people who consider others' needs as readily as they consider their own, and aim to be that person yourself. This doesn't mean you should ignore your own needs, but rather approach relationships with a mindset of shared benefit. Remember, Genuine connections are nurtured through empathy and giving, not by counting victories or clinging to an inflated sense of importance. As Seneca wisely put it, no one can live happily who has regard for himself alone and transforms everything into a question of his own utility. In life, the truly successful individuals are those who uplift others, create balanced dynamics, and build trust through their actions, not just their words. Surround yourself with these kinds of people and strive to be one, because a life shared in mutual support is far richer than one spent chasing selfish gains. 11. Inconstancy and unpredictability. Inconsistency and unpredictability are traits that can shake the foundations of any relationship. When people shift their behavior or opinions to suit their convenience without holding a consistent stance, they create an atmosphere of uncertainty and distrust for those around them. You know these types. They're the ones who might be supportive and enthusiastic one day, then cold and critical the next, without any clear reason. This kind of inconsistency is exhausting because it leaves you walking on eggshells, unsure of what version of the person you'll encounter. Think of a friend who today backs you wholeheartedly in your choices but turns around tomorrow to criticize you without cause. Such behavior signals a lack of reliability that wears down patience and trust. This inconsistency also surfaces in how they handle commitments. Working with someone who changes their mind frequently, whether it's a colleague or a project leader, can be a nightmare. Picture yourself investing time and energy into a project, only to find that their opinion or approach has flipped overnight. Not only does this disrupt progress, but it also generates stress and confusion, eroding trust and making it hard for anyone to rely on them. Have you ever been part of a team where the direction changed so often that you felt like you were running in circles? This kind of unpredictability doesn't just waste time. It chips away at morale and weakens group cohesion. In a professional environment, the consequences of such behavior are magnified. When a leader is inconsistent, making decisions on a whim or constantly revising plans without explanation, it leaves their team bewildered and unmotivated. This is not adaptability. It's chaos disguised as flexibility. Stoic wisdom reminds us that consistency and steadiness build trust. Seneca said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials," highlighting that steadiness in character is refined through challenges, not erratic shifts. Leaders who fail to demonstrate consistency foster an unpredictable workplace, where employees may feel unsupported and uncertain about their roles. In such environments, valuable opportunities can slip away because decisions are made and revoked in a cycle that prevents meaningful progress. Moreover, these inconsistent individuals often rationalize their behavior by claiming they are simply adaptable or responsive to changing situations. But the truth is, there's a fine line between being adaptable and being erratic. True adaptability involves thoughtful adjustments that are communicated and understood by those involved. On the contrary, unpredictability without forethought or communication breeds distrust and confusion. Do you have a colleague or manager whose shifting opinions make every meeting feel like an uphill battle? You might find yourself second-guessing every step, unsure whether to stay committed or brace for yet another unexpected change. This level of inconstancy not only undermines confidence but sets a precedent for disorganized, inefficient work. Next, consider the example of a manager who constantly changes project priorities without a clear explanation. One day, the team is working full steam ahead on one initiative. The next, they're abruptly told to pivot to something else, leaving behind incomplete work and confused team members. This unpredictability can lead to a chaotic work environment where no one knows how to meet expectations, resulting in reduced productivity and a demoralized team. Have you ever worked under someone who couldn't seem to stick to their own plan? If so, you know the frustration of trying to hit a moving target. The key message here is that consistency matters more than we often realize. Whether in personal relationships or the workplace, trust is built on the foundation of predictable, reliable behavior. On the other hand, those who waver and shift without warning create nothing but anxiety and uncertainty. They may claim they're flexible, but their actions tell a different story, one that doesn't lead to growth or success. If you're in a professional context, seek clarity and confirm important details to safeguard against sudden changes. In personal relationships, decide whether the inconsistency is something you can tolerate or if it's wearing you down. Remember, stability isn't just a nice to have, it's essential for fostering meaningful, trusting relationships. As the Stoics teach, seek to be the person others can rely on, a steady presence in an unpredictable world. Surround yourself with people who value the same, because those who consistently stand by their principles and communicate openly will always be worth your trust. 12. Habitual dishonesty. Habitual dishonesty is a behavior that erodes trust in any relationship, whether personal or professional. When someone repeatedly resorts to lying, whether to avoid consequences or manipulate others, it creates an environment thick with uncertainty and mistrust that can be nearly impossible to mend. The trouble with chronic dishonesty is that it leaves you questioning every word that person says, unable to decipher what's genuine and what's fabricated. A friend who is always making excuses for not keeping commitments or who habitually distorts reality to suit their narrative, making things appear better or worse than they truly are. This kind of behavior forms a pattern of deception that chips away at the foundation of trust, and once that's gone, the relationship struggles to survive. As Epictetus wisely noted, lying is an ugly blot on a man, and it ever tells against him. The essence of this wisdom is that honesty is not just a virtue but the very fabric that holds human connections together. It's not just the grand, elaborate lies that cause damage. The smaller, seemingly insignificant ones can be just as harmful. A colleague who habitually hides important details or manipulates information to their advantage might seem harmless in the moment, but over time, these little falsehoods add up. They create a culture of suspicion where colleagues start second-guessing each other, and teamwork suffers. In a professional environment, dishonesty can have far-reaching consequences, leading to costly errors and misguided decisions based on incomplete or fabricated data. This not only jeopardizes the trust between individuals, but can derail entire projects and tarnish reputations. The ancient Stoics often preached that truth was paramount for a harmonious life. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." A simple yet profound reminder of the value of integrity. Dishonesty also has a manipulative edge that extends beyond the spoken lie. It can be used as a tool for emotional control, where one twists reality to alter others' perceptions or emotions. Consider someone who constantly portrays themselves as a victim, spinning stories or exaggerating situations to win sympathy and support. This form of manipulation may seem innocent at first but becomes insidious over time, eroding trust and perpetuating a toxic cycle of deceit. Have you ever felt manipulated by someone's constant portrayal of hardship, only to later discover that much of what they said was an exaggeration or fabrication? This behavior is not only unfair to those around them, but sets up a continuous loop of dishonesty that is difficult to break. Seneca's words ring true here. What is a good man but a teacher of bad ones? In this case, chronic dishonesty teaches those around it to distrust and to guard themselves, limiting genuine connections. Addressing habitual dishonesty requires a straightforward approach. It's important to confront such behavior directly, making it clear that honesty is essential for trust to exist. Establishing boundaries and being transparent about the non-negotiable value of truth can help, but it requires vigilance and consistency. Openly communicate that dishonesty, no matter how small, won't be tolerated. This might be difficult, especially if the dishonest person is someone close, but it's necessary for your well-being and for maintaining healthy relationships. Have you thought about what boundaries you might need to set with someone in your life who frequently distorts the truth? If you haven't, now might be the time to consider how this behavior has affected your own sense of trust and security. However, while confronting dishonesty is important, it's also crucial to be aware of other behaviors that can be just as damaging to relationships and your overall sense of peace. A holistic approach to trust and respect in any connection requires watching for these subtle signs and understanding that they can erode just as surely as the most blatant lie. Whether it's small, habitual dishonesty or larger deceptions, remember that truth is not just the cornerstone of trust, but the bridge to meaningful and lasting relationships. Trust yourself enough to insist on honesty from those around you and embody that same principle in your own life. Because as the Stoics taught us, living an honest life is not just for the benefit of others, but a path to inner strength and true freedom. 13. Lack of loyalty. The absence of loyalty is one of the most profound betrayals you can encounter in any relationship. When people break trust, whether by divulging secrets, switching sides during critical moments, or acting disloyally when their support is needed the most, it signals a lack of integrity that is hard to forgive or forget. Trust is delicate, and loyalty is its cornerstone. Placing your confidence in someone, only to learn they shared your personal or sensitive information with others, perhaps to harm you or simply due to carelessness. This betrayal isn't just a crack in the relationship, it can have serious repercussions, impacting your personal and professional life in ways that ripple far beyond the initial breach. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Loyalty is about embodying this principle, standing by people through truth and consistency. Loyalty forms a foundation of safety and mutual trust, allowing people to lean on one another and thrive together. When someone acts disloyally, it fractures that foundation, leaving behind vulnerability and a bitter sense of betrayal. Think about a friend who walks away when times get tough, or a colleague who sides with your competitors to secure their own gain. These acts of disloyalty don't just sting, they can be devastating, creating wounds that may never fully heal. Have you ever felt the sting of someone's betrayal and questioned why you ever trusted them in the first place? It's this emotional impact that shows why loyalty is not just a virtue, but an essential trait in any healthy relationship. As the Stoics remind us, our circle should be built on solid virtues, not shifting sands. Betrayal doesn't just hurt emotionally, it carries tangible consequences too. Broken trust can result in lost opportunities, damaged reputations, and disrupted plans. For instance, consider a business partner who backs out of a crucial agreement at the last minute because a better deal came along. This isn't just a breach of loyalty, it's a display of unprofessionalism that can ruin existing partnerships and close doors on future collaborations. When you experience such betrayals, it becomes clear that loyalty is more than a warm feeling. It's the backbone of dependability in every interaction. Without it, you're left questioning who you can count on, especially when stakes are high. Furthermore, a lack of loyalty often walks hand in hand with a lack of commitment and responsibility. Disloyal people act mainly for their benefit, disregarding the promises and obligations they've made. They might appear supportive when everything is smooth sailing, but when difficulties arise, their true colors show. In a work setting, someone who shifts blame or sidesteps commitments as soon as challenges emerge isn't just unreliable, they're a liability. This behavior creates an atmosphere where you constantly need to watch your back and second-guess others' intentions, fostering stress and mistrust. It's not just about spotting disloyalty, it's about protecting yourself from its effects. One way to safeguard your trust is by being selective with whom you share your vulnerabilities and by setting clear boundaries. The truth is, loyalty is something earned over time through consistent, supportive actions, not just verbal assurances. Think about the people in your life. Who has shown up for you, time and again, even when it was inconvenient or risky for them? These are the individuals worth keeping close. Seneca once said, "Every man prefers belief to the exercise of judgment," reminding us to be discerning in our trust. Loyalty shouldn't be freely given to those who haven't shown they deserve it. If you find yourself realizing that someone in your circle lacks loyalty, it's time to reevaluate. Does their presence bring value to your life, or do their actions leave you feeling vulnerable and let down? This reflection isn't just for protection, It's about nurturing relationships that contribute to your peace and strength. People who value loyalty contribute to an environment where trust flourishes and relationships grow deeper. On the other hand, those who repeatedly act in their self-interest, disregarding the bonds they share with others, undermine that environment. In the end, be mindful and proactive. Loyalty is the silent pact that strengthens connections. So, take stock, set boundaries, and hold fast to those who have proven that their loyalty is unwavering, because it is through them that you will find the support and trust needed to navigate life's uncertainties. 14. Arrogance and disdain. Arrogance and disdain are behaviors that don't just push people away. They signal a profound lack of respect for others and create an unhealthy environment. When someone carries themselves with an air of superiority, constantly underestimating and disregarding the opinions and emotions of those around them, it quickly becomes evident that they're not interested in connection or growth. This kind of attitude builds an invisible wall between the arrogant individual and everyone else, making effective communication and genuine collaboration nearly impossible. Think about the frustration of working alongside someone who always acts as if they're the smartest in the room, brushing off your ideas and making you feel small. This isn't just infuriating. It stifles learning and mutual growth, robbing everyone involved of the chance to build something better together. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus once advised, it is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. Arrogance blinds people to wisdom because they can't fathom learning from others. Disdain is arrogance in action, expressed through sharp comments and belittling looks that aim to reinforce this false sense of superiority. People who exhibit this behavior often do so to lift themselves up by tearing others down. In such interactions, any chance of genuine connection becomes strained, as the relationship pivots from mutual respect to a one-sided display of self-importance. These dynamics foster negativity and eventually lead to loneliness for the person who behaves this way, because few people are willing to endure such treatment indefinitely. Marcus Aurelius aptly put it, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury," a reminder that responding with arrogance or disdain only perpetuates the cycle. Instead, the answer lies in maintaining your dignity and choosing not to stoop to their level. This behavior can be especially destructive in leadership roles. A leader who treats their team with disdain, ignores their input, and downplays their achievements isn't just being unpleasant. They're actively damaging the morale and trust that fuel productivity. Such an environment inevitably becomes toxic, resulting in high turnover and a collective sense of dissatisfaction. Employees lose motivation when their efforts are brushed aside and their contributions are minimized. Have you ever worked under someone who made you feel invisible, no matter how much you contributed? Such leaders fail to understand that long-term success is built on collaboration and mutual respect. The irony is that the arrogant leader often limits their own potential by alienating those who could have been their strongest supporters and allies. Seneca's words resonate here. Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Surrounding oneself with yes men or treating others as inferior will do the opposite, stagnate growth and isolate the person at the top. How can you handle arrogance and disdain when you encounter them? The first step is not to internalize their behavior. People who act superior do so from a place of insecurity, needing to mask their own doubts by belittling others. Keep your composure and remind yourself that their words or actions reflect more on them than on you. Address the behavior calmly if needed, pointing out how it affects communication and collaboration. Let's telling a colleague, "I value feedback, but constructive input helps everyone improve," can subtly encourage a more respectful dialogue. However, there comes a point when you must decide whether the relationship is worth preserving. Is the individual willing to change, or are they committed to their condescending ways? Protecting your peace means knowing when to distance yourself from those who refuse to grow. Surround yourself with people who build you up, not those who pull you down with arrogance or disdain. Be mindful of your own behavior too. Humility is the antidote to arrogance and the path to deeper connections. As the Stoics teach, strength lies in recognizing your worth without diminishing others. Challenge yourself to appreciate others' strengths and listen without letting ego lead the conversation. Remember, the most respected people are those who uplift others and value every voice regardless of position. When you embody humility and avoid arrogance, you not only gain the trust and respect of those around you, but create an environment where real growth, understanding, and collaboration can thrive. Thank you for watching all the way through. If this video resonated with you, leave a comment saying, "Trust matters," to share your commitment to better connections. Don't miss out. There's more valuable content coming soon. 15. Lack of self-criticism. A lack of self-criticism is a clear indicator of an unwillingness to grow or improve. People who consistently refuse to admit their mistakes or shortcomings and who are quick to shift the blame onto others are caught in a cycle of denial that hinders their personal and professional development. This behavior not only frustrates those around them, but also stifles their own progress, trapping them in a loop of stagnation. Such behavior breeds tension and demoralizes the group, making it difficult to move forward or learn from past missteps. As Marcus Aurelius wisely noted, "If anyone can refute me, show me I'm making a mistake or looking at things from the wrong perspective, I'll gladly change. It's the truth I'm after, and the truth never harmed anyone." Yet those who lack self-criticism avoid this principle, missing out on valuable lessons and growth opportunities. This lack of self-critique is also evident when someone resists constructive feedback. Rather than taking suggestions for improvement in stride, they become defensive, refusing to entertain the idea that they could be wrong. Have you ever known someone who always had a justification for their actions, no matter how clear it was that they were in the wrong? Such people demonstrate an inability to reflect on their actions, which can erode trust and make relationships feel one-sided. When feedback is dismissed instead of considered, it signals that their ego stands in the way of progress. How can you build a partnership, personal or professional, with someone who can't look inward and make changes for the better? Over time, this inability to self-reflect leads to stagnation. No one wants to work or socialize with someone who never acknowledges their faults or shows a willingness to improve. This reluctance to accept feedback or admit mistakes also fosters a distorted self-view, where the individual believes they are blameless and any problem must stem from external sources. This ego-driven perspective can alienate others, as it demonstrates a lack of empathy and accountability. Consider a leader who never admits fault, even when decisions fail and outcomes suffer. The team under such leadership faces frustration and a lack of direction because their leader refuses to learn from mistakes or adjust strategies. Seneca's wisdom speaks to this. Every man prefers belief to the exercise of judgment, and so the self-assured individual clings to their narrative, no matter the cost. For leaders, a refusal to engage in self-criticism can have catastrophic consequences. If a leader consistently overlooks their own errors, they lead their team down paths riddled with avoidable failures. The result is not just a demoralized workforce, but a limit on their own potential for long-term success. People are drawn to leaders who admit their flaws and learn from them. It shows strength, not weakness. When a leader models humility and growth, the entire team benefits from a culture of trust and improvement. Think about how much more effective a workplace could be if everyone, especially those at the top, embraced the mindset of learning from mistakes rather than denying them. Addressing this behavior in others requires patience and clarity. Helping someone develop a sense of self-awareness means presenting their mistakes in a constructive way and encouraging them to reflect. Direct yet supportive feedback can nudge them toward recognizing the value in self-assessment. However, it's essential to acknowledge that some individuals may never change, clinging instead to their defensive habits. If you find yourself continuously frustrated by someone who won't accept responsibility, it might be time to reconsider your involvement with them. Are they worth the emotional energy, or is their unwillingness to grow holding you back as well? This is where your own boundaries come into play. Remember, relationships, whether in work or personal life, thrive on honesty, accountability, and the willingness to evolve. Surround yourself with those who demonstrate a capacity for self-reflection and who embrace feedback as a tool for growth. And more importantly, strive to embody that mindset yourself. True strength lies not in pretending you are infallible, but in acknowledging where you can do better and working to make that change. As we wrap up these 15 attitudes, it's clear that our lives are deeply connected with those around us, making it essential to recognize and act on these behaviors. But here's the real question. What will you do with this insight? Knowing is just the beginning. Applying it is where the real growth happens. Take an honest look at the people in your life and consider who truly deserves your trust and respect. Remember, you're not obligated to keep those close who harm your well-being, even if their actions seem minor at first glance. Are you ready to make those changes? Reflect on it, and start taking steps that protect your emotional and mental health. If you're committed to learning how to strengthen your relationships and enrich your life, be sure to subscribe to Stoic in Your Life and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on valuable content. Let's keep exploring how to build a more fulfilling life, surrounded by those who truly uplift us. Share your thoughts in the comments. What changes will you make after watching this? See you in the next video. 9 reasons why people secretly hate you. Stoic Philosophy. The opinion of others is a mere reflection of themselves, not of you. Have you ever noticed that no matter how genuine or kind you are, certain people seem to dislike you on sight? It's as though, without any clear reason, they respond with cold glances or distant attitudes. Why do some people secretly harbor feelings of hatred or resentment, even when you've done nothing to warrant it? This question is more than a passing curiosity. It's a deep dive into the hidden layers of human psychology. Often, these negative emotions arise not from your actions, but from buried insecurities, silent envy, or subtle misunderstandings that take root over time. In today's video, we're exploring the 9 surprising reasons people might secretly resent or dislike you. These insights will open your eyes and offer powerful new perspectives on managing social dynamics with wisdom and clarity. Thank you for joining me on Stoic in Your Life. Your support means everything, and reading your thoughtful comments inspires me every day. Now let's delve into these hidden reasons together and find the freedom to live authentically. Are you ready? 1. Envy and jealousy. Envy is the ulcer of the soul. Socrates. Have you ever felt the chill of resentment from someone, even though you did nothing to provoke it? Sometimes people harbor negative feelings not because of anything you did, but because of what they see in you. One of the strongest yet least discussed forces driving these feelings is envy, a deep-rooted emotion that often festers quietly in others and turns admiration into resentment. Envy is a powerful emotion because it's born from seeing something in someone else that we desire, but feel is unattainable for ourselves. When others witness your success, confidence, or peace of mind, they might be reminded of what they feel they lack. Instead of using this as inspiration, their thoughts can turn dark, and they begin to resent you as a representation of their own unfulfilled desires. As Marcus Aurelius advised, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. When someone allows envy to take over their mind, it colors their perception, leading them to interpret your strengths as attacks on their own shortcomings, even if unintentionally. This resentment isn't about you. It's a struggle within them, a projection of their insecurities onto the image of who you are. In today's world, where success is frequently displayed on social media and public platforms, envy can grow faster than ever. It's no longer just about a colleague who earns a promotion. It's about the friend with the perfect family photos, the neighbor with the new car, or the entrepreneur who built their dream business. However, the Stoics teach us that we can't control the feelings others hold towards us. What we can control is our response. Rather than reacting to negativity with anger or frustration, approach these individuals with compassion, recognizing their envy as a symptom of their own struggles rather than a true reflection of you. While you can't dissolve another's envy, you can protect your own peace of mind by establishing healthy boundaries and reminding yourself that you are not responsible for their insecurities. In maintaining your integrity, you may even inspire them to turn their envy inward as a motivation to achieve their own goals. This approach aligns with Epictetus's wisdom. Seek not for events to happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do, and you will go on well. Rather than hoping others won't envy you, accept that envy is often a byproduct of success and contentment. Recognize that some people will naturally feel resentment towards you simply because your life highlights areas they wish to improve in their own. But rather than let this weigh on you, see it as an opportunity to practice patience, empathy, and humility. Reframing envy as their personal struggle, rather than a reason to alter your behavior, empowers you to continue growing without carrying the burden of another's negative feelings. By staying focused on your own path and not allowing envy to deter your progress, you embody the strength of the Stoic mindset, which emphasizes maintaining inner peace amidst external chaos. 2. Misunderstandings and ineffective communication. Misunderstandings are the source of many unnecessary resentments. Sometimes, without even realizing it, we say or do something that others perceive the wrong way, and from that single misunderstanding, resentment begins to grow. It's a common problem, one that you may have experienced even in your closest relationships. Have you ever had a moment where you said something with one intention, but the person you were talking to took it in a completely different way? This simple, often innocent miscommunication can lead to deep-seated negative feelings if it's not addressed. Misunderstandings are often caused by gaps between what we mean and how others interpret our words or actions. It might be as small as a misplaced comment, an unintended tone, or even a facial expression that leaves a lingering impression of judgment or disinterest. In these moments, people can start to build an entire story around this impression, viewing you as dismissive, distant, or even hostile. In our fast-paced digital world, where conversations happen over text, emails, or social media comments, these misunderstandings can escalate even faster. Words sent without the benefit of tone, facial expression, or body language can take on unintended meanings, making it easy for people to form false narratives. Imagine sending a quick text to a friend or coworker that was meant to be straightforward, only to find out later that they were hurt or felt dismissed by your tone. And sometimes, these misunderstandings remain unspoken, with the other person never voicing their feelings and you never knowing you've hurt them. Gradually, these small misinterpretations can build into emotional walls, especially if both sides assume the worst or fail to seek clarification. As Marcus Aurelius once said, "We see things not as they are, but as we are." This means people interpret words and actions through the lens of their own emotions, experiences, and insecurities, which can distort the original meaning. Take a common situation. Two co-workers are working late on a project, and one makes a joke about how long the project is taking. It's intended as a light-hearted comment, but the other person, feeling overwhelmed by the workload, takes it as a criticism of their efficiency. Instead of laughing, they feel hurt, and they may even avoid future interactions, convinced that their co-worker is questioning their competence. This simple misunderstanding could have been prevented with a little clarity or a follow-up conversation, but left unaddressed, it becomes a source of quiet resentment. Stoic philosophy reminds us of the importance of clear and thoughtful communication, especially in today's world where misunderstandings can multiply in an instant. If you find yourself in a situation where someone's reaction seems out of place, consider whether there might have been a misunderstanding. A simple question like, "Did that come across the way I intended?" can dissolve tension and rebuild trust. Asking for clarification can show others that you respect their perspective and value their feelings. In modern life, we're often rushing, multitasking, or distracted, which can make miscommunication even more likely. Have you ever been in a conversation where you felt the other person was only half listening, giving short or dismissive answers that left you feeling undervalued or ignored? Even if their intention wasn't to be rude, this disconnect can make us feel unimportant, especially in relationships where we're seeking validation or connection. To avoid misunderstandings, it's essential to practice active listening, putting down your phone, making eye contact, and giving your full attention. These small gestures can go a long way in showing that you care about what the other person has to say. And when you're the one speaking, being aware of how your words might be received can prevent unintended hurt feelings. A valuable Stoic lesson here is that we should strive to be mindful of our own perceptions, as well as patient with the interpretations of others. Epictetus taught us that it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. When you sense that there may be a misunderstanding, instead of assuming the worst or letting it fester, take the initiative to clarify. Don't let silence allow negative feelings to grow where they don't need to. You'd be surprised how much goodwill you can build by simply being the person who reaches out first, even if it's just to say, "I hope there's no misunderstanding. I value our connection." In the end, misunderstandings are a natural part of human relationships, but they don't have to be permanent barriers. By practicing patience, curiosity, and empathy, you can prevent misunderstandings from turning into resentments and ensure that your interactions are positive and supportive. Remember, every small effort to clarify, listen actively, and communicate openly strengthens the bonds of trust and respect, creating relationships that can withstand the challenges of life's inevitable miscommunications. 3. Differences in fundamental values and beliefs. It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. Aristotle. Have you ever noticed how some of the deepest conflicts we encounter with others arise simply because we see the world differently? The values and beliefs that guide us act like a personal compass, but when someone else's compass points in a different direction, the tension that follows can lead to quiet resentment and sometimes outright hostility. Our fundamental values, whether they're based on how we were raised, shaped by cultural traditions, religious beliefs, or even personal experiences, are deeply ingrained in who we are. They shape not just our actions, but how we perceive the world and the people in it. So when you encounter someone who holds very different beliefs, it's natural that there might be friction. They may see you as a threat to what they hold dear, or they might misinterpret your choices as a rejection of their values. Think about it. How often do we take someone's beliefs personally, assuming that their choices are a critique of our own? When people perceive your lifestyle, work ethic, or moral beliefs as fundamentally opposed to theirs, it can lead them to harbor negative feelings toward you, even if you have no ill intentions. But here's the Stoic insight that can help us navigate this. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart." This perspective reminds us that even though we may disagree with others, we can still choose respect and kindness. Consider the diversity of viewpoints we encounter every day. Just because someone has a different outlook doesn't mean they're against us, or that we need to change who we are. Often, resentment arises because people feel their own values are challenged by the presence of someone different. But in reality, this can be an opportunity for growth and understanding. For instance, you may be passionate about working long hours and striving for professional success, while someone else values family time or a more relaxed lifestyle. Neither of you is wrong, but to the other person, your choice might appear as a judgment of theirs, sparking silent resentment. This is why Stoicism teaches us to see things as they are, not as we wish them to be, reminding us that much of what people feel about us is colored by their own insecurities and biases. When facing this kind of quiet hostility, take a moment to ask yourself, is this person's resentment about me, or is it about their perception of me? Epictetus taught, It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This means we can't control how others interpret our actions, but we can control our response. Instead of letting differences in beliefs drive a wedge between us and others, we can use it as a chance to practice empathy. Try to understand where they're coming from. Ask yourself, what life experiences or influences might have shaped their perspective? The more we understand the roots of another person's beliefs, the easier it is to interact without resentment building up on either side. This mindset not only helps prevent misunderstandings, but also allows us to form connections based on respect rather than defensiveness. Sometimes a single conversation can dissolve years of built-up misunderstandings. Imagine sitting down with someone whose views you once found frustrating, only to learn that they've gone through struggles that made them see life differently. Doesn't that shift everything? If we take the time to ask questions and listen rather than assume, we might find that our differences are not as irreconcilable as they first seemed. Seneca once observed, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Often the beliefs and values we assume separate us are not nearly as divisive as we think, and by choosing to see past those assumptions, we cultivate stronger, more resilient connections. In a world where divisive opinions and polarized beliefs seem to be growing, we each have the power to choose how we respond. Rather than letting ourselves become defensive or resentful toward people who live differently than we do, we can choose to embrace tolerance, open-mindedness, and patience. And here's the beauty of it. When you lead with empathy, others often reflect it back. By showing patience toward the values of others, we not only embody Stoic principles but also create a ripple effect of understanding that encourages those around us to do the same. So the next time you feel tension with someone because they see life differently, pause and ask yourself what you might learn from their perspective. Perhaps they're struggling with something you've already overcome, or maybe they have wisdom in areas you're still exploring. After all, none of us has the ultimate answer to life's questions, and there's always room to grow from each other's experiences. Our values don't need to align perfectly for us to coexist peacefully. The key is remembering that we can choose to be true to ourselves while respecting the choices of others. As Epictetus encouraged, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. By embodying Stoic values in our interactions, we show others that different values don't need to create barriers. Instead, they can inspire mutual respect. This approach not only strengthens our relationships but also deepens our own understanding of the world. 4. The influence of rumors and gossip. Gossip dies when it hits a wise person's ears. Anonymous. Have you ever considered how a simple whisper, a casual remark, or even a subtle look can alter the way others perceive you? Rumors and gossip are some of the oldest and most powerful tools of social influence, shaping reputations and relationships often without our control or even our awareness. A single, unfounded rumor can spread like wildfire, affecting how people see you, trust you, or even treat you, regardless of its truth. It's an age-old issue, one that Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius were well aware of. He warned us to focus on our character rather than our reputation, noting that, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. This piece of wisdom is a reminder to avoid feeding into rumors and gossip ourselves, but it also teaches us the importance of maintaining our integrity in a world where words can be weaponized against us. Think about it. How often have you seen someone's character questioned based solely on hearsay or half-truths? And even if the information is later proven false, the shadow of doubt cast by gossip is often slow to fade. In today's digital age, gossip spreads faster than ever. Social media amplifies every story, every scandal, and every whisper, giving rumors an unprecedented reach. With a single click, people can share details, whether true, false, or exaggerated, to hundreds, even thousands of others. Once gossip enters the public sphere, it can take on a life of its own, shifting, mutating, and embedding itself in people's perceptions. Often these rumors are based not on the reality of who you are, but on someone's jealousy, misunderstandings, or insecurities. But why do people find it so easy to believe and spread rumors, even when they don't know the full story? For some, it's a way to feel included, part of the inside circle of knowledge. For others, it may stem from envy or dissatisfaction, using gossip as a subtle form of revenge or a way to bring others down a notch. But as Epictetus taught, it is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. Those who spread gossip are often locked in their own assumptions, unwilling to seek the truth and allowing their beliefs to be guided by partial stories instead of understanding. Imagine, for example, a situation where a coworker begins spreading a rumor about you getting a promotion unfairly or having an unfair advantage. The people who hear this story may never approach you to understand the truth, but they might quietly change how they treat you, perhaps showing less trust, acting distant, or even hoping for you to fail. In these situations, rumors serve as invisible barriers in relationships, driving people apart based on nothing more than unconfirmed whispers. So, what can you do when faced with gossip that damages your reputation? Marcus Aurelius offers us wisdom here, advising that we should focus on what we can control, our actions, character, and integrity. Instead of reacting impulsively, calmly live in a way that consistently reflects who you are, trusting that over time, those who truly know you will see beyond the rumors. One of the best defenses against gossip is authenticity. By consistently living in alignment with your values, you build a solid reputation that is less easily shaken by others' words. Another valuable Stoic lesson is to refrain from engaging in gossip about others. It's tempting to feel validated by negative stories, but as Seneca pointed out, associate with those who help you and welcome those you are capable of helping. In other words, seek relationships grounded in truth, respect, and growth, rather than allowing gossip to shape your connections. Choosing not to indulge in rumors is a way to protect your peace and set a higher standard in your social circles. When others see that you're not interested in participating in gossip, they may begin to respect you as someone who values integrity over drama, and over time, this can shift the behavior within your social groups. Now consider how you might approach someone who has believed or even spread false rumors about you. Instead of approaching them with anger, think of how the Stoics would handle this. Rather than letting pride get in the way, see if a calm, honest conversation could clear up misunderstandings and help rebuild trust. By addressing the situation directly and respectfully, you set a powerful example of maturity and emotional resilience. And in cases where the gossipers are unwilling to confront the truth, sometimes the best response is silence. As they say, actions speak louder than words, and by not reacting emotionally, you protect your dignity and show that the rumors do not define you. Ultimately, the influence of gossip and rumors only has power if we allow it to affect us deeply. While it can be painful to know that others are talking about us negatively, it's important to remember that a clear conscience and a consistent character are the strongest defenses. As Epictetus reminded us, know first who you are and then adorn yourself accordingly. When you know who you are and live by your values, gossip becomes just noise, unable to shake the foundation of self-respect and integrity that you've built. So, the next time you hear a rumor, whether about yourself or someone else, consider the Stoic approach. Choose to focus on what is true, act with integrity, and surround yourself with those who value you for who you are, not for the stories others tell. In doing so, you cultivate not only a resilient spirit, but also a reputation that no rumor can diminish. Thank you for joining us in today's video. Before moving on, I'd like to take a moment to express my gratitude for being part of our community. Whether you're here for the first time or have been with us for a while, your presence means a lot. Feel free to share your story or impressions in the comments. If you're not sure what to say, simply comment, "I am a newbie" if you're new, or "I am Stoic" if you've been with us on this journey. Your engagement is a huge motivation for us, and it helps strengthen this community of growth and wisdom. Now let's continue this journey together, shall we? 5. Personal insecurities and projection. We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Seneca. Have you ever found yourself wondering why someone might harbor negative feelings towards you, even if you've done nothing to provoke them? Often the root cause lies not in your actions but in their own personal insecurities. These hidden insecurities can be powerful forces, leading people to project their inner struggles onto those around them. When people feel inadequate, unsuccessful, or fearful, they sometimes cope by placing blame on others, especially on those who seem to embody qualities or achievements they feel they lack. This defense mechanism, called projection, is a way for them to avoid confronting their own feelings of inadequacy. Instead of acknowledging their fears and failures, they may shift their focus outward, attributing those feelings to you. This behavior can create an invisible tension, leaving you feeling confused or even hurt, all because someone else's unresolved inner conflicts are quietly affecting the way they treat you. Let's say, for instance, you're thriving in your career, moving forward with confidence and visibly enjoying the work you do. A colleague who feels stuck or unsatisfied with their own career path might begin to resent you for your success. They might see your progress as a reminder of where they think they're falling short, and instead of celebrating your achievements or learning from your success, they become critical, perhaps even cold. This isn't really about you, it's about their own dissatisfaction. By projecting their self-doubt onto you, they're trying in a way to protect themselves from the painful task of looking inward. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This statement captures an essential Stoic truth that can help us here. While you can't control another person's insecurities, you can choose to recognize that their behavior is more about their struggles than any real issue with you. In today's world, where comparison is only a click away and social media often amplifies our insecurities, projection has become all too common. Seeing others living their best lives, achieving goals, or appearing more content can intensify a person's own insecurities, making them feel as though they're falling behind or missing out. But rather than facing these insecurities, some people find it easier to focus on the perceived flaws of others. This often leads to resentment, and you may find yourself at the receiving end without any understanding of why. To navigate this, try to remember that their resentment doesn't define you. Instead, respond with empathy and keep in mind that what others see in you is often a reflection of what they feel within themselves. By doing so, you're less likely to internalize their negativity, and you can move forward without letting their projections cloud your self-worth. One valuable approach when dealing with this type of resentment is to practice understanding, even if it's not easy. Ask yourself, could this person's behavior be rooted in something other than what's visible? Maybe they're going through challenges that aren't immediately obvious. For example, a friend might pull away when they see you thriving in a new relationship if they're struggling with loneliness or a recent breakup. Or perhaps a family member might show irritation at your accomplishments if they're facing financial or personal difficulties that make your success seem like a painful contrast. Recognizing this possibility allows you to extend patience instead of reacting with defensiveness, maintaining your peace and dignity in situations where it would be easy to feel misunderstood. The Stoics teach us to focus on what we can control, which in this case means choosing to respond to others' insecurities with compassion rather than letting their issues affect our inner peace. This perspective shift helps to reduce frustration and reminds us that we're all facing our own battles. Each person's journey is unique, filled with fears, aspirations, and setbacks that may not be visible on the surface. If you can remember that resentment often stems from a place of pain, you'll be better equipped to handle it with grace. Another Stoic philosopher, Marcus Aurelius, noted, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Understanding this is a powerful reminder that others' negativity doesn't have to be internalized. By focusing on your own actions, staying grounded in your values, and responding with kindness, you allow yourself to rise above their projections. So, what's the takeaway here? When people project their insecurities onto you, remember that it's more about them than it is about you. Their resentment is a reflection of their own battles, not a judgment of your worth. Instead of letting their feelings bring you down, use this knowledge as an opportunity to practice empathy and stay true to your path. By doing so, you cultivate resilience and maintain your self-respect. In the end, your peace of mind is too valuable to let someone else's insecurities disrupt it. Keep moving forward, focusing on what you can control: your actions, your character, and your response to others. 6. Lack of empathy and understanding. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. Epictetus. Have you ever felt misunderstood, as if people sometimes judge you based on a single moment without truly seeing the full picture? This often happens because of a lack of empathy and understanding, a common reason for hidden resentment. Empathy is the ability to step into another person's shoes, to see the world from their perspective, and to feel what they feel. When empathy is absent, people jump to conclusions about others, interpreting their actions or words through the narrow lens of their own experiences and biases. In a world where everyone is so caught up in their own lives, taking a moment to truly understand someone else can feel like a rarity. But without this understanding, people are quick to misunderstand motives, make assumptions, and harbor resentment that can be completely unwarranted. When we fail to practice empathy, we end up seeing people not as they are, but as we imagine them to be, often leading to distorted views that create unnecessary conflict and bitterness. Have you ever had someone misjudge your intentions based on a single comment or action, leaving you feeling unfairly labeled? This experience is often rooted in the fact that people generally react to others based on their own unresolved emotions or expectations, rather than truly understanding the other person's perspective. Epictetus once taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters," reminding us that empathy requires us to pause, look beyond the surface, and consider the other person's story. In daily life, it's easy to be busy and self-focused, leading us to interpret others' actions without context. For instance, let's say you arrive late to a family gathering because of unexpected work obligations. To others, it might appear that you don't care, but without understanding your circumstances, they may quietly resent you. Or think about the person who seems distant at a social event. They may be dealing with personal issues you're unaware of, but without empathy, we're quick to assume they're simply unfriendly or rude. These judgments are shortcuts that prevent us from seeing the complex realities behind people's actions, creating divides where understanding could have built bridges. In modern society, where social media and quick interactions often replace deeper conversations, the problem of lacking empathy is amplified. We see snapshots of others' lives, and without the full context, it's easy to assume, judge, and even harbor resentment. But think about it. If we judged everyone based on what we saw in a moment, how many important relationships would suffer? This is why Stoic wisdom encourages us to be patient and to approach others with curiosity rather than judgment. As Marcus Aurelius wisely observed, whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself the following question: what fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize? This question reminds us that we are all flawed, and in judging others without understanding, we're often highlighting struggles that we ourselves share. When we choose empathy over assumption, we open the door to richer, more authentic relationships. We give others the benefit of the doubt, recognizing that everyone faces struggles, doubts, and personal battles that may not be visible on the surface. The next time you find yourself ready to criticize or hold a grudge, ask yourself, do I know the whole story? Could there be a reason for their behavior that I haven't considered? This simple shift in thinking can transform misunderstandings into moments of connection. Rather than seeing others as adversaries or judging them by a single action, try to understand what may be influencing their behavior. Remember, everyone has their struggles just as you do. Choosing empathy allows you to maintain your peace without letting resentment take root. By practicing empathy, we not only improve our relationships with others, but also strengthen our character. Every time you pause to consider someone else's perspective, you're building patience, understanding, and resilience. qualities that Stoic philosophy holds in high regard. These qualities make you less reactive, more grounded, and more focused on what truly matters: how you respond to life, not how life responds to you. So next time, take that pause. Instead of reacting quickly or making assumptions, consider how you might see the situation from the other person's perspective. Not only will this help avoid unnecessary resentment, but it will also deepen your connections with others, allowing you to live more harmoniously and in line with the Stoic values of wisdom and understanding. 7. Competition or rivalry. Have you ever felt the quiet tension of competition in relationships, where what should be mutual support instead turns into rivalry? Competition, when healthy, can inspire us to reach our highest potential. But when rivalry is driven by insecurity or jealousy, it can erode even the strongest connections. Many people may harbor resentment toward you because they see your success, achievements, or personal qualities as threats to their own sense of worth. This feeling is especially common in environments where constant comparison fuels ambition, like the workplace, family circles, or even social media. In a world that often praises personal achievement and individual success, it's easy for people to feel that another person's win somehow reflects their own loss, as if life were a zero-sum game. They may think, if he is advancing, then that must mean I am falling behind. And instead of finding inspiration in another's achievements, they respond with quiet resentment. This resentment can arise in the most subtle of ways, often growing from an inner belief that our value is diminished when someone else shines. It's a mindset that's reinforced by social and professional structures that measure worth by comparison rather than individual growth. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus reminds us, know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly. When people lack a strong sense of self, they are more vulnerable to letting the achievements of others shake their confidence. Rather than viewing others as sources of inspiration, they see them as reminders of what they perceive as their own shortcomings. So, if you're doing well, excelling in your career, or simply enjoying life, those around you may feel uneasy, not because of anything you've done, but because they interpret your success as a reflection of what they haven't achieved. Have you ever sensed tension with a friend, only to wonder if it stems from something as simple as your recent success? This competitive attitude can be especially challenging to navigate in modern life, where we're constantly exposed to others' accomplishments through social media and professional networks. A friend buys a new house, a colleague gets promoted, or someone in your circle achieves a significant personal milestone. Without a grounded sense of self, it's easy to let jealousy slip in. But the Stoic approach offers a way to overcome these feelings and to stay centered in a world filled with comparison. Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Rather than allowing yourself to be pulled into others' insecurities, focus on cultivating gratitude for your journey and respecting the achievements of others. Remember, success is not a limited resource, and someone else's win does not diminish your potential or value. However, you might find yourself in a position where you sense others harboring quiet resentment toward you because of their own competitive nature. Rather than allowing this resentment to create distance, consider leading with empathy and understanding. Ask yourself, what insecurities or struggles might be motivating this competitive attitude? Could it be that they're facing challenges you're unaware of, or are they navigating personal insecurities that make your progress feel like an added pressure? By acknowledging this, you maintain control over your reactions, staying calm and kind without internalizing their negativity. As the Stoic way suggests, strive to focus on what you can control, your actions, words, and responses to others' behavior, rather than trying to manage their feelings of rivalry. It's easy to feel defensive when someone projects resentment onto you, but reacting from a place of peace and respect can diffuse the tension, setting an example of maturity and strength. In competitive settings, rather than letting rivalry create a wedge between you and others, practice being genuinely happy for their successes, just as you hope they would be for yours. By congratulating a colleague on a promotion, celebrating a friend's new achievement, or simply acknowledging someone else's progress without comparison, you reinforce a mindset of abundance. This approach is not only more fulfilling, but it also cultivates a positive environment that encourages mutual growth. When we engage with others without competing, we invite them to see that success is not a race, but a personal journey. Instead of focusing on where you stand relative to others, concentrate on your own goals and values, which allows you to remain steady and content, even in the face of others' achievements. How you handle competition says more about your character than about anyone else's success or shortcomings. As Seneca wisely put it, as long as you live, keep learning how to live. This means learning to view competition as a path to self-betterment, not as a source of resentment. When someone else's success sparks jealousy, take it as an opportunity to examine your own values and aspirations. Are you seeking validation in ways that leave you vulnerable to envy? Are there areas in your life where you could focus more on growth rather than on comparison? By reframing competition as a tool for self-reflection, you turn it into a catalyst for growth rather than a source of division. Ultimately, competition doesn't have to lead to resentment. It can be transformed into respect and inspiration when we approach it from a place of self-assurance and empathy. Next time you sense rivalry, remind yourself of the Stoic principle of focusing inward. Find strength in knowing that your journey is unique, and let others' successes be reminders that there is plenty of room for everyone to thrive. Cultivating this mindset will not only free you from the burdens of envy and resentment, but will also allow you to live with a sense of calm and contentment, regardless of where others stand in their journey. If you've made it this far, you're truly embracing the path of wisdom. Drop a comment saying, "I am rising above," to show your commitment to living with resilience and understanding. Stay tuned, there's so much more to discover. 8. The influence of social expectations. The greatest impediment to living is expectation, which depends on the future and neglects the present. Seneca. Have you ever felt judged or even disliked simply because you chose to live differently than others expect? This can be one of the most powerful hidden sources of resentment in today's society, when people silently judge or even dislike you for not conforming to social norms. Whether it's choosing an unconventional career, living in a way that doesn't fit traditional molds, or holding beliefs that go against the grain. Breaking away from social expectations often brings a quiet, simmering resentment from those who feel threatened or challenged by your choices. The truth is, people often find comfort in their beliefs and routines, and when they see someone stepping outside those boundaries, it can make them question their own choices. This questioning can lead to discomfort, and that discomfort, if left unchecked, can grow into resentment or even hostility. Perhaps you've chosen to focus on a passion that doesn't fit the 9-to-5 mold, or you've decided not to follow traditional relationship paths. Whatever it may be, your choice to live authentically may unintentionally highlight the areas where others feel confined, sparking feelings they may not fully understand. Think about how social media amplifies this effect today. We're constantly sharing our lives with others, and those who see us choosing differently may feel their own choices reflected back to them in a way that feels like judgment, even if none is intended. They might resent you for living a life that reminds them of the things they wish they could change in their own. This is why people sometimes say they feel judged, not by your words, but by your very lifestyle. When you make choices that align with your values but defy the norm, you're showing others that there's an alternative to the life they've chosen, which can be both inspiring and unsettling. Epictetus advised, "Know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly." In other words, live true to yourself and let go of the need to meet others' expectations. Yet, as simple as this advice may sound, living authentically in a world full of expectations is no easy task. By choosing your own path, you're signaling to others that their approval is not your goal, and this can feel like a challenge to those who deeply value fitting in or following the crowd. Consider a story from modern life. Imagine a young professional who decides to leave a corporate job to start a small business, pursuing something he's passionate about, like creating art or starting a wellness company. His friends, family, or former co-workers may initially react with support, but as his lifestyle begins to diverge more drastically from the expected path, subtle judgment and resentment can creep in. They may start to see his choice as a critique of the traditional career route they've taken, leading to quiet feelings of frustration or confusion. They might say, "I'm glad he's happy, but that life wouldn't be for me," while also wondering if they too should have taken a leap at some point. When people live in accordance with what they think is normal, seeing someone defy these norms can spark an uncomfortable self-reflection, and sometimes that discomfort turns outward as resentment toward the person who dared to live differently. In such cases, people's resentment may have little to do with you personally, and more to do with their discomfort around their own life choices. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the opinion of others is a mere reflection of themselves, not of you. This wisdom is especially valuable when facing the quiet judgments of others. It reminds us that others' opinions are not necessarily reflections of truth, but often mirror their insecurities or unresolved feelings. So when someone resents you for not following societal expectations, take it as a sign that you're living a life true to yourself, and understand that their reaction is a reflection of their struggles, not of your worth. Choosing a path that differs from societal norms is often challenging because it requires resilience and self-trust, especially when people around you show discomfort or disapproval. What's the takeaway here? The next time you feel the weight of others' expectations pressing down on you, remember that your life is yours to shape, not theirs to control. Be aware that living authentically doesn't mean others will always approve, and sometimes your very existence as an individual, rather than a follower, will stir up resentment in those who feel confined by their own choices. But let this be a reminder to keep going. As you pursue your own path, seek connections with those who appreciate you for who you are, not for how well you meet conventional expectations. And if you find yourself affected by their judgment, remember this Stoic wisdom: no one can harm you unless you allow it. Live by this, focusing on your values and goals rather than others' views, for true happiness lies not in pleasing others but in being true to yourself. You'll find that embracing your own path, regardless of society's expectations, will bring a sense of fulfillment that no one's approval could ever replace. 9. The lack of recognition. Have you ever felt the sting of going unnoticed, where your hard work and contributions seem to blend into the background, with no acknowledgement, no thanks, and no recognition? This can be one of the deepest sources of resentment, both for those who experience it and for those around them who may not even realize it's happening. A lack of recognition can quietly build up a feeling of bitterness in people, leading them to question their worth and even resent others who seem to get the praise and validation they crave. Imagine spending hours on a project, investing all your energy and creativity, only to watch as someone else, who might have contributed much less, gets the spotlight. This doesn't just happen in the workplace, it can occur in family dynamics, friendships, or any social environment where people strive to be seen, valued, and appreciated for what they bring to the table. When people are consistently overlooked, it creates a gap, a feeling that their efforts don't matter, which can gradually evolve into resentment, and sometimes even directed dislike toward those who seem more recognized or appreciated. But why is recognition so crucial for people? At its core, it's not just about wanting praise. It's about the deep-seated need to feel valued, to know that one's contributions have meaning, and that their existence makes a difference in the lives around them. Think of how often in life people's dedication is brushed aside, not out of malice, but simply because it goes unnoticed. This feeling is common in workplaces where one's hard work is easily overshadowed by office politics, where louder voices drown out quieter, steady contributions. For example, imagine a team where one person is constantly taking on extra tasks, ensuring everything runs smoothly, yet another team member, perhaps more vocal or charismatic, receives all the praise. It doesn't take long for the one doing the quiet, consistent work to feel a sense of unfairness. This sense of neglect is even more significant in personal relationships where someone's effort to support a friend or family member may be taken for granted, leading them to feel like they are not valued. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic philosopher, said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." His words remind us that although recognition is something we all crave, it shouldn't be our sole purpose or measure of worth. Yet, when people feel chronically undervalued, they start to build invisible walls, disconnecting emotionally and sometimes even mentally from the very relationships they once cherished. They might start to withdraw, feeling that if no one sees their contributions, then why continue to make them? This lack of acknowledgement can breed resentment not only toward specific individuals, but even toward the idea of hard work itself, causing some to stop putting in the effort. Have you ever known someone who once went above and beyond but gradually over time began to do the bare minimum? It's likely that this shift came from feeling unappreciated or invisible, and they may even resent those who still seem eager to contribute. As Epictetus said, "Know first who you are and then adorn yourself accordingly." Recognizing your value shouldn't rely on the praise of others, but it's a challenging task in a society that often celebrates only those who stand out visibly, rather than those who work diligently behind the scenes. In modern life, social media has amplified this desire for recognition, where likes, shares, and comments serve as digital validation. People who don't receive this validation can feel invisible, and it's easy to see how resentment might grow toward those who seem to effortlessly attract attention and appreciation. But Stoicism teaches us that the recognition we seek should ideally come from within. When we place our self-worth in the hands of others, we become vulnerable to disappointment and disillusionment. Marcus Aurelius also said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." If we let our happiness hinge on the recognition of others, we're giving away the power to control our sense of worth. Instead, he advises us to find contentment in our actions and intentions rather than external validation. However, it's also important to recognize that everyone has this innate need to feel seen and valued. In understanding this, we can make a conscious effort to acknowledge the contributions of those around us, creating a culture of appreciation rather than competition. A small word of thanks or a simple acknowledgement of someone's efforts can go a long way in preventing the quiet growth of resentment. Reflect on your own life and ask yourself, are there people around you whose hard work and dedication you might be taking for granted? Can you be more mindful of acknowledging others' contributions no matter how small? By making this effort, you're not only strengthening your connections, but also reducing the chance of resentment building up around you. The Stoic perspective encourages us to look inward for validation, knowing that our actions are worthwhile even if no one else acknowledges them. True satisfaction comes from living in accordance with our values, from knowing that we've done our best, not for praise but for personal integrity. Let others' recognition be a pleasant bonus, but not the foundation of your self-worth. By doing so, you maintain your peace, strengthen your sense of self, and cultivate resilience in a world that doesn't always stop to appreciate the hard work we put in. Remember, you have the power to value yourself, and in doing so, you shield yourself from the trap of seeking recognition at the expense of your peace. This inner strength, this reliance on self-acknowledgement, is the true essence of living with confidence and freedom, regardless of how much or how little others may notice. As we wrap up today's journey through the complex reasons why people may harbor resentment toward you, remember that these feelings often reflect others' insecurities, misunderstandings, or inner struggles, rather than your own worth. The insights of Stoic philosophy remind us to hold true to our values, respond with empathy, and focus on what we can control: our actions, character, and peace of mind. By applying these principles, you can rise above negativity and build a life grounded in resilience, self-respect, and inner harmony. Thank you for watching Stoic in Your Life. If you found these insights helpful, please give this video a thumbs up, share it with others, and consider subscribing to the channel. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss our upcoming videos on Stoic wisdom. I'd love to hear your thoughts on today's topic, so leave a comment below. If you're not sure what to say, simply type peacefulness to show that you've completed this session. Let's keep building this community of wisdom, resilience, and personal growth together. Until next time, keep moving forward with strength and authenticity. Step back, stay silent. They will beg you. Stoicism. Sometimes silence is the most powerful scream. Think about the quiet strength that comes with stepping back and observing rather than reacting. Imagine you're like a magnet. The harder you try to attract, the more resistance you feel, but when you pull back, something fascinating happens. People and opportunities are drawn to you effortlessly, almost as if guided by an invisible force. This isn't about manipulating others or playing mind games. It's about recognizing that true influence doesn't come from chasing approval or begging for attention. Instead, it comes from cultivating a calm, silent confidence, a presence that speaks louder than any words. When you embrace the power of silence, you allow others to realize your worth without lifting a finger. In today's video on Stoic in Your Life, we'll explore the art of stepping back, creating space, and letting silence do the work. You'll discover why holding back can actually give you the upper hand in any relationship, and how this simple shift can make others value you in ways they never did before. If you're ready to reclaim your power and let silence speak for you, stay tuned. Number 1. Ditch the thirst. Play it cool. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. These words by Marcus Aurelius remind us that power and influence are not exerted through desperate attempts for validation, but through composure and self-assuredness. In the context of relationships and social dynamics, this wisdom becomes especially pertinent. The first step toward commanding respect and drawing people closer lies in letting go of desperation and adopting an attitude of calm confidence, a concept we'll explore with the principle. Ditch the thirst. Play it cool. Often, the instinct to overextend ourselves, to text too often, to explain too much, or to chase after those who don't seem to reciprocate, stems from a place of insecurity. This behavior sends a signal of dependence, which ironically repels the very connection we desire. Instead, embracing silence and detachment, as the Stoics teach, creates a magnetic aura. By stepping back and exuding patience, we demonstrate value. The modern world, filled with instant communication and oversharing, often pressures us to react immediately. However, as Seneca once said, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Time spent chasing after fleeting validation is time stolen from our self-respect. Cultivate an attitude of abundance and believe that what is meant for you will come. Not because you chased it, but because you earned it. Consider how this principle applies in professional settings. Suppose you're angling for a promotion or trying to impress a client. If you push too hard, you may come across as needy, which undermines your perceived competence. But when you step back, allowing your actions and skills to speak for themselves, your worth becomes evident without explanation. Similarly, in personal relationships, pulling back gives the other person space to reflect on your value. As Epictetus wisely noted, curb your desire, don't set your heart on so many things, and you will get what you need. Playing it cool doesn't mean indifference, it means valuing your own dignity above external approval. There's a power in being the one who doesn't need to fill every silence or fight for every scrap of attention. Think of it this way. People are naturally drawn to mystery and confidence. When you maintain self-control and refrain from excessive pursuit, you create intrigue. This dynamic can transform how others perceive and interact with you. The subtle shift from chasing to attracting is monumental. In our age of hyperconnectivity, the wisdom of the Stoics is a breath of fresh air. While social media and constant notifications encourage us to seek immediate gratification, The teachings of ancient philosophy call us to patience and poise. Modern life offers plenty of distractions that can lead us astray, but a Stoic approach reminds us that our true power lies in restraint. Reflect on the words of Marcus Aurelius. The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. If someone dismisses or disrespects you, staying silent and composed is far more powerful than reacting with frustration. This silent confidence speaks volumes, and over time it becomes clear who truly holds the upper hand. This mindset also strengthens your ability to handle rejection or indifference. It's tempting to keep pushing when someone pulls away, but consider this. Desperation breeds contempt. When you instead step back and focus on your own growth, you communicate that your self-worth isn't dependent on another's validation. This shift in perspective not only shields you from unnecessary heartbreak, but also opens doors to healthier, more balanced relationships. To tie this concept back to a relatable metaphor, think of a campfire. If you constantly smother it with sticks and try to force the flames higher, you'll extinguish the fire. But if you give it space, let the air circulate, and feed it sparingly, the fire thrives. Similarly, relationships, whether romantic, professional, or platonic, require balance. Overloading them with attention suffocates their natural growth. Trust in the process and allow things to unfold naturally. So how can you apply this wisdom to your daily life? Start by recognizing when you're overexerting yourself. Pay attention to patterns of behavior. Do you text someone repeatedly without receiving a response? Do you feel compelled to explain yourself at length in meetings or social settings? The first step toward change is awareness. From there, practice the art of patience. Remind yourself that your value is not determined by external validation, but by the confidence you carry within. As the Stoics advise, focus on what you can control, your own actions and mindset, rather than fretting over the responses of others. The key takeaway here is that silence and detachment are not signs of weakness. They are strategies of strength. They allow you to command respect without demanding it, and to create a sense of presence without being overbearing. As the saying goes, speak only if it improves upon the silence. Sometimes the most impactful thing you can do is step back, stay silent, and let others come to you. By adopting this approach, you align yourself with the timeless wisdom of Stoicism, which teaches that self-mastery is the ultimate power. Whether in relationships, career pursuits, or personal development, playing it cool is not just about attracting others. It's about cultivating a life of dignity, confidence, and purpose. Remember, the goal is not to make others beg for your attention, but to build a life so fulfilling that their admiration becomes a natural consequence. Number 2, keep your cards close, let them wonder. Keep your cards close, let them wonder. These words contain a powerful truth about human behavior and relationships. In a world where transparency and oversharing are often seen as signs of trust or authenticity, holding back and maintaining an air of mystery can be a surprising yet effective way to build respect and intrigue. Stoicism, a philosophy rooted in self-control and internal strength, teaches us the value of restraint, not just in action but also in the words we choose and the emotions we display. The more people know about you, the easier it is for them to form judgments, manipulate, or even dismiss you. But when you keep certain thoughts, plans, and emotions to yourself, you maintain an edge, and that edge can transform the way people perceive you. Think about this in the context of a workplace scenario. Have you ever shared an ambitious idea too early only to see it dismissed, stolen, or undermined? By keeping your thoughts to yourself until the right moment, you protect your vision and allow it to mature without interference. Similarly, in personal relationships, revealing everything about yourself up front may initially seem endearing, but often leads to a lack of intrigue and depth. When you hold back, you create space for curiosity to grow, and people are naturally drawn to what they don't fully understand. As Marcus Aurelius wisely noted, "Be like the cliff against which the waves continually break. It stands firm and tames the fury of the water around it." This is the essence of keeping your cards close, remaining steady, composed, and unfazed by external pressures, allowing others to wonder about your thoughts and intentions. In our modern age of social media and constant connection, where every moment is shared and every feeling is broadcast, maintaining a sense of mystery has become increasingly rare and valuable. Reflect on this. When was the last time you found yourself captivated by someone who didn't immediately lay all their cards on the table? Their restraint wasn't arrogance, it was confidence, a quiet assurance that didn't demand attention, but commanded it nonetheless. How you handle competition says more about your character than about anyone else's success or shortcomings. As Seneca wisely put it, as long as you live, keep learning how to live. This means learning to view competition as a path to self-betterment, not as a source of resentment. When someone else's success sparks jealousy, take it as an opportunity to examine your own values and aspirations. Are you seeking validation in ways that leave you vulnerable to envy? Are there areas in your life where you could focus more on growth rather than on comparison? By reframing competition as a tool for self-reflection, you turn it into a catalyst for growth rather than a source of division. Ultimately, competition doesn't have to lead to resentment. It can be transformed into respect and inspiration when we approach it from a place of self-assurance and empathy. Next time you sense rivalry, remind yourself of the Stoic principle of focusing inward. Find strength in knowing that your journey is unique, and let others' successes be reminders that there is plenty of room for everyone to thrive. Cultivating this mindset will not only free you from the burdens of envy and resentment, but will also allow you to live with a sense of calm and contentment, regardless of where others stand in their journey. If you've made it this far, you're truly embracing the path of wisdom. Drop a comment saying, "I am rising above," to show your commitment to living with resilience and understanding. Stay tuned. There's so much more to discover. Now consider how often you might be tempted to explain your every move or defend your choices to others. Ask yourself, does revealing everything truly serve you, or does it dilute your strength? Epictetus reminds us, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. The act of holding back your reactions, your plans, and even your vulnerabilities can be one of the most powerful tools you have in shaping the way the world interacts with you. To ground this idea in a relatable story, imagine a man named David who worked tirelessly in his corporate job. He had grand plans for a startup, but unlike many of his peers who often shared their dreams in casual conversations, David kept his ambitions to himself. Over the years, his colleagues underestimated him, assuming he was content in his role. But behind the scenes, David was preparing meticulously, gathering resources, and developing his vision. When the day finally came for him to launch his company, the world saw the result of his silence, a well-planned and highly successful business. By keeping his cards close, David avoided unnecessary scrutiny and allowed his actions to speak louder than words. Now think about your own life. Are there areas where you could benefit from a little more discretion and a little less explanation? This principle applies not only to career or personal ambitions, but also to the way you handle conflict in relationships. Have you ever noticed how silence can sometimes be more powerful than words? When someone criticizes or confronts you, the instinct is often to respond immediately, to defend yourself or retaliate. But what if you didn't? What if, instead of reacting, you simply stayed silent and observed? That silence forces the other person to confront their own words, often leaving a stronger impression than any rebuttal could achieve. As the Stoics teach, power lies in mastery over oneself, not in attempting to control others. Seneca said it best, "As is a tale, so is life. Not how long it is, but how good it is what matters." A good life isn't measured by how much you share or how quickly you react, but by the quality of the choices you make, including the choice to hold back when necessary. Letting others wonder doesn't mean building walls or withholding trust. It's about preserving your personal sovereignty and understanding that not everything needs to be shared. There's a fine line between vulnerability and overexposure, and navigating that line with wisdom allows you to maintain respect and boundaries in every aspect of your life. This principle is particularly crucial in today's fast-paced world, where people often judge based on snippets of information rather than the full story. By revealing only what is necessary, you control the narrative of your life and ensure that the parts of you that matter most are respected and valued. Consider this lesson. In life, the greatest strength often lies in subtlety. Holding your cards close isn't about manipulation, it's about intentionality. It's about creating space for your actions to align with your values, ensuring that the world sees the best version of you, not the hurried or overexposed one. So, the next time you feel the urge to explain yourself, reveal your plans, or react impulsively, pause and ask, what do I gain by keeping this to myself? In that moment, you may find that silence is not just a choice but a declaration of strength. As you navigate your relationships and aspirations, remember this: the less you say, the more they'll wonder, and in that wonder lies your power. Number 3. Master your minutes. Make them earn your time. Time is the most valuable asset you have, yet it's often the one thing people squander without a second thought. Think about this. How often do you find yourself saying yes to things you don't want to do, spending hours scrolling on your phone, or engaging in conversations that add no value to your life? If you're honest, the answer might make you uncomfortable, and that discomfort is a wake-up call. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." The Stoics understood that time is fleeting, and every moment wasted is a moment you'll never get back. So, why give it away so freely to people and activities that don't respect its worth? Now let's talk about why mastering your minutes is so important. When you value your time, others start to value it too. Think about the last time you bent over backward to accommodate someone who didn't appreciate your efforts. Did they seem grateful, or did they take your time for granted? This is the hard truth. When you freely give away your time without boundaries, it loses its value in the eyes of others. But when you protect it, when you're intentional about where and how you spend it, people take notice. They start to realize that your attention is a privilege, not something to be assumed. As Seneca wisely said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." The problem isn't that we lack time, it's that we don't manage it wisely. In modern life, distractions are everywhere. Social media, endless notifications, and mindless entertainment make it easy to lose hours without even noticing. But imagine if you could reclaim that time and channel it into something meaningful. What could you achieve? What relationships could you nurture? What dreams could you bring to life? Ask yourself, are you spending your minutes on things that align with your values and goals? Or are you letting others dictate how you use your most precious resource? This is where the Stoic principle of self-discipline comes into play. The ability to say no to distractions and yes to priorities is a skill that can transform your life. It's not easy, but as Epictetus reminds us, no great thing is created suddenly. Mastering your minutes takes effort and intention, but the rewards are worth it. Here's a story to illustrate this. There was a man named Daniel who always said yes to every request. He helped his coworkers, picked up every phone call, and spent his evenings attending events he didn't care about. Over time, he found himself exhausted and unfulfilled, with little progress toward his own goals. One day, he decided to change. He started setting boundaries, politely declining unnecessary requests, and dedicating time to what truly mattered to him, building his business and spending quality time with his family. At first, people were surprised by his shift, but soon they began respecting his time. His business flourished and his relationships deepened. Daniel didn't just reclaim his time, he reclaimed his life. Now think about your own life. Where are you giving your time away too easily, and how can you take it back? When you begin to master your minutes, you'll notice a ripple effect in all areas of your life. You'll have more energy, more clarity, and a greater sense of purpose. But this requires discipline and self-awareness. It means being intentional about your priorities and having the courage to set boundaries, even when it's uncomfortable. It means recognizing that every yes is a no to something else, so you must choose wisely. Are you saying yes to things that bring you closer to the life you want? Or are you saying yes out of guilt, obligation, or fear of disappointing others? The Stoics teach us that true freedom comes from mastering ourselves, and part of that mastery is controlling how we spend our time. At the core of this principle is the idea that your time is your power. When you guard it, you take control of your life. You stop being a victim of circumstance and start becoming the architect of your destiny. This doesn't mean you should be selfish or refuse to help others, but it does mean you should be intentional about where your minutes go. Remember, not everyone deserves access to your time, and that's okay. As you implement this mindset, you'll find that people who truly value you will respect your boundaries, while those who don't will fall away. And that's a blessing. Let's reflect on this essential Stoic lesson. Time is finite, and its value is immeasurable. The way you spend your minutes is a reflection of your priorities, your values, and your self-respect. Mastering your minutes isn't just about productivity. It's about living a life that feels meaningful and aligned with who you are. So the next time someone demands your time or a distraction tempts you, pause and ask yourself, does this deserve my minutes? In that pause, you'll find clarity and strength. And from that strength, you'll build a life that truly matters. Number 4, raise the bar, don't settle for crumbs. Raise the bar, don't settle for crumbs. In life, the value you place on yourself sets the standard for how others treat you. Yet, so many of us accept far less than we deserve, whether it's in relationships, work, or personal growth. Why do we do this? The answer often lies in fear. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, or even fear of loneliness. But Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. If you constantly think small, accept less, and settle for crumbs, you condition your soul to live in mediocrity. To raise the bar, you must first believe you're worthy of more, and then act in a way that reinforces this belief. When you settle for less, you send a clear message to the world that you're willing to accept anything, and people will adjust their behavior accordingly. Consider the workplace. If you consistently take on extra work without fair recognition or compensation, what incentive does your employer have to reward you? They know you'll do the work regardless. But when you set boundaries and demand what you're worth, you shift the dynamic. Suddenly, you're not just another employee, you're a valuable asset. As Epictetus said, know, first, who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly. This advice rings true today as much as it did centuries ago. The way you value yourself determines the way others value you. Now let's apply this principle to relationships. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt like you were putting in all the effort, while the other person seemed content to give the bare minimum? It's a frustrating and draining experience, but it only happens because you've allowed it. When you raise the bar, you teach people how to treat you by showing them what you will and won't accept. This doesn't mean you need to be harsh or unkind. It's about respecting yourself enough to walk away from crumbs and seek out what truly nourishes your soul. Seneca reminds us, associate with those who will make a better man of you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve. The process is a mutual one. Men learn as they teach. Surround yourself with people who elevate you, not those who keep you tethered to mediocrity. In modern life, where instant gratification and superficial connections are the norm, raising the bar can feel like an uphill battle. Social media feeds us the illusion that we need to settle for what's convenient rather than what's meaningful. But let me ask you this. When was the last time you truly felt fulfilled by settling for less? Did it bring you lasting happiness, or did it leave you wanting more? By refusing to settle, you create space for opportunities and people who align with your values. This requires patience and courage, but as the Stoics teach, greatness is never achieved through shortcuts. As Epictetus wisely stated, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Raising the bar starts with mastering your inner world, your thoughts, beliefs, and actions. Let's consider a modern metaphor. Imagine you're at a buffet. The table is filled with crumbs, scraps, and leftovers. But in the distance, there's another table overflowing with fresh, delicious food. Most people settle for the crumbs because they're easier to reach. They convince themselves it's not worth the effort to walk to the other table. But those who take the extra steps are rewarded with nourishment that far exceeds the scraps. Life works the same way. Settling for crumbs might seem convenient in the moment, but it deprives you of the richness that comes with aiming higher. Why take the scraps when the feast is within reach? Raising the bar also requires a mindset shift. You must stop seeing challenges as obstacles and start viewing them as opportunities to grow. When you demand more from life, you inevitably face resistance, whether from others or from within yourself. But resistance is where growth happens. Think of a sculptor chiseling away at a block of marble. Each strike seems destructive, but with time and effort, it reveals a masterpiece. In the same way, raising your standards may initially feel uncomfortable or even painful, but it's the only way to uncover your true potential. As Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. So, how can you start raising the bar today? Begin by identifying the areas in your life where you've been settling. Is it your career, your relationships, your personal habits, or perhaps all of the above? Next, set clear boundaries and goals. What do you truly want, and what are you no longer willing to tolerate? Remember, it's not enough to hope for change. You must take deliberate action. This might mean having uncomfortable conversations, letting go of toxic relationships, or pursuing opportunities that scare you. Growth always lies on the other side of fear. Remember this essential Stoic lesson: you are worthy of more than crumbs. Life is too short to live in mediocrity when greatness is within your reach. Raising the bar is not about arrogance or entitlement. It's about self-respect and the pursuit of a life that aligns with your highest potential. When you stop settling and start striving, you not only transform your own life but inspire others to do the same. So I leave you with this question. What's one area of your life where you've been settling, and what step will you take today to raise the bar? Your journey to a richer, more fulfilling life begins the moment you decide you're worth it. Will you take the first step? Thank you for joining us in today's video. Your presence here means the world to us, and we're so grateful to have you as part of our growing community. Whether you're new to this journey or have been walking the Stoic path with us for a while, we'd love to hear from you. Share your story, your thoughts, or just drop a comment saying, "I am a newbie," if you've recently joined, or "I am a Stoic," if you've been here a while. Your engagement isn't just appreciated, it's what keeps us inspired to continue sharing these insights with you. Now let's dive deeper and continue this journey together, shall we? Number 5. Seal your lips. No explanations given. There's a quiet power in silence that often speaks louder than words. Yet, in a world where over-explaining has become the norm, we often feel compelled to justify our actions, our choices, and even our very existence. Why do we feel this need? The answer is rooted in a desire for acceptance, approval, and understanding. But as Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Stoicism teaches us that we don't owe anyone an explanation for living in alignment with our values. Instead, the less you explain, the more people are forced to respect your decisions. When you speak sparingly and with intention, your words carry weight, and your silence commands attention. Let me ask you, how often do you catch yourself trying to explain why you couldn't attend an event, why you made a certain decision, or why you've chosen a specific path in life? It's almost as if we're seeking permission from others to be ourselves. But consider this. When you offer too much explanation, you give people the opportunity to question you. to challenge your reasoning, or to diminish your choices. On the other hand, when you remain calm and resolute without feeling the need to explain, you exude confidence and self-assurance. As Epictetus wisely said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Your silence is not a retreat, it's a stance of strength and conviction. To ground this concept in modern life, think about a scenario where a colleague at work challenges a decision you've made. Your instinct might be to justify your actions, to lay out every detail of your thought process. But what if you didn't? What if, instead, you calmly stated your decision and moved on without elaboration? This approach forces others to respect your authority and highlights your confidence. Silence doesn't mean you don't care. It means you trust yourself and your decisions enough not to seek validation. This practice also applies in relationships. Have you ever been in a heated argument where one person demands an explanation, and the other, instead of reacting, remains silent? That silence often diffuses the situation faster than any words could because it shifts the focus and removes the fuel that feeds the fire. The principle of sealing your lips doesn't imply shutting people out or being dismissive. It's about choosing your words carefully and recognizing when silence is the most powerful response. There's a story of a young entrepreneur, Sarah, who faced relentless criticism for her unconventional business model. Instead of defending herself or responding to every critique, she let her results speak for her. Over time, her silence became her strength, and her growing success silenced the critics. When people eventually came to her for advice, she didn't hold grudges. She simply continued to lead by example, proving that actions truly do speak louder than words. Ask yourself, where in your life could you benefit from saying less and letting your actions do the talking? Silence, when used with intention, also serves as a tool for reflection. In the rush to explain ourselves, we often miss the opportunity to evaluate whether the explanations are even necessary. Do you owe anyone a detailed account of why you declined an invitation, changed your career path, or ended a relationship? Most of the time, the answer is no. As Seneca puts it, silence is a lesson learned through life's many sufferings. It's a reminder that your energy is finite, and not everyone deserves access to your inner world. By holding back unnecessary explanations, you conserve your energy for the things and people that truly matter. Let's delve deeper into the psychology behind this. Over-explaining often stems from insecurity, a subconscious attempt to convince others and sometimes even ourselves that our choices are valid. But here's the truth. Your worth is not up for debate. When you choose silence over justification, you demonstrate a level of self-respect that commands admiration. Think about this. Would you rather be the person who talks endlessly, seeking approval, or the one whose presence and quiet resolve speak for itself? As the saying goes, the more you talk, the less people listen. In contrast, silence has a magnetic quality that draws people in, making them curious and respectful of your perspective. In a world that thrives on noise, mastering the art of sealing your lips is a radical act of self-mastery. It's not about being mysterious or manipulative. It's about valuing your voice and choosing when to use it. When you refrain from unnecessary explanations, you also free yourself from the anxiety of wondering how others perceive you. This creates a sense of inner peace and clarity that aligns perfectly with the Stoic philosophy of focusing on what you can control, your own thoughts and actions. Let this Stoic lesson guide you. Your silence is your power. You don't need to explain yourself to be understood, nor do you need to speak to be heard. The next time you feel the urge to justify your actions or choices, pause and ask yourself, does this explanation serve me, or is it draining my energy? By sealing your lips, you reclaim your time, your peace, and your authority over your own life. Remember, strength isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's the quiet resolve of a person who knows their worth and doesn't feel the need to prove it. So, where in your life can you let silence speak for you? Number 6. Glow up and keep them wondering. Glow up and keep them wondering. This phrase carries a timeless truth about self-improvement and the silent power of transformation. In a world where people are quick to judge and categorize, one of the most profound ways to shift their perception is not through words or explanations, but through action. As Epictetus wisely said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." This Stoic teaching reminds us that true growth is inward and only shows outwardly when the time is right. When you dedicate yourself to becoming the best version of who you are, mentally, emotionally, and physically, you inspire curiosity and admiration. The key is to focus on your growth quietly and consistently, leaving others to marvel at your progress. Think about this. How often do you find yourself trying to prove something to others? Whether it's explaining your decisions, justifying your goals, or defending your dreams. The energy spent on convincing others could be redirected toward bettering yourself. Imagine if you poured that energy into your health, skills, or personal goals instead. When you commit to your own glow-up, you no longer feel the need to explain or seek validation because your results speak for themselves. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." This powerful message underscores that real change doesn't require an announcement. It requires consistent action. So, why tell them who you are becoming when you can simply show them through your actions? Let's bring this principle to life with a relatable story. There was a man named Alex who had always been overlooked in his social and professional circles. People assumed they knew who he was, and over time he began to feel invisible. But one day, Alex decided he would stop trying to fit into their perceptions and start focusing on his own growth. He worked on his health, refined his skills, and pursued goals that truly mattered to him. Over time, the people who had once ignored him began to notice. They saw his newfound confidence, his achievements, and his calm, self-assured demeanor. Alex never sought their approval, but his transformation was undeniable. Without saying a word, he earned the respect and attention he had once chased. Now think about your own life. Where could you benefit from letting your actions speak louder than your words? The concept of glowing up isn't limited to physical appearance, though that's often where people start. It's about improving every area of your life, from your mindset and habits to your relationships and ambitions. When you focus on self-improvement, you naturally radiate confidence and strength. This kind of inner transformation creates an outer glow that others can't help but notice. But here's the critical part. You don't do it for them. You do it for yourself. As Seneca said, "It is the power of the mind to be unconquerable." When you work on yourself for your own sake, you achieve a level of peace and resilience that no external validation can match. So ask yourself, what areas of your life could benefit from a glow-up? And more importantly, are you willing to commit to the quiet, consistent work it requires? In today's culture of instant gratification, the idea of a silent transformation might seem counterintuitive. Social media encourages us to share every step of our journey, seeking likes and comments to validate our progress. But Stoicism teaches us a different approach, one that prioritizes personal growth over public recognition. When you focus on the work rather than the applause, your transformation becomes more meaningful and lasting. People will notice not because you told them to, but because they can't ignore the results. This is the essence of keeping them wondering. When you glow up silently, you maintain an air of mystery and self-respect that draws others in. Let's also consider how glowing up impacts your relationships. When you improve yourself, you naturally elevate the people around you, or, in some cases, leave behind those who no longer align with your values. This is not an act of arrogance, but one of self-respect. You deserve to surround yourself with people who appreciate your growth and inspire you to continue on your journey. As the Stoics remind us, the quality of your associations profoundly affects your life. So, as you glow up, you'll find that some people will admire your transformation, while others may feel threatened by it. And that's okay. You are not responsible for how others react to your progress. Your only responsibility is to keep moving forward. Glowing up and keeping them wondering is not about seeking approval or proving anyone wrong. It's about becoming the person you were meant to be and allowing that transformation to speak for itself. The journey of self-improvement is deeply personal, but its effects are undeniable. When you commit to bettering yourself, whether it's through education, fitness, emotional healing, or pursuing your passions, you create a ripple effect that influences everyone around you. The world will take notice not because you demanded it, but because your growth is impossible to ignore. So as you step back and focus on your glow-up, remember this Stoic wisdom. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Don't worry about what others think in the short term. Trust the process, commit to the work, and let your transformation do the talking. Now ask yourself, what's the first step you can take today to begin your glow-up? And are you ready to embrace the quiet strength that comes with keeping them wondering? Number 7. Learn to say no and mean it. In a world that constantly demands more from us, whether it's work obligations, family commitments, or social expectations, the ability to say no is one of the most powerful tools you can master. As Epictetus wisely said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." When you say yes to everything, you become a slave to the whims of others, sacrificing your own priorities and peace in the process. Learning to say no is not about being dismissive or uncaring. It's about valuing yourself enough to choose what truly matters. Let's dive into why this simple word is so transformative. Saying no allows you to reclaim your time, energy, and focus. How often do you find yourself overwhelmed because you agreed to something out of guilt or obligation, only to regret it later? Whether it's a meeting that could have been an email, a favor for someone who doesn't appreciate your effort, or an event you didn't want to attend, these small compromises add up. They drain your resources and leave you feeling stretched thin. By saying no, you're not rejecting the person or the opportunity. You're prioritizing your well-being and protecting what's important to you. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The strength to say no comes from knowing your worth and understanding that every yes you give to others is a no you're giving to yourself. Consider a modern-day scenario. John is a hard-working professional who always says yes to extra projects at work. His colleagues admire his dedication, but over time, John starts to feel burnt out and unappreciated. He realizes that by always saying yes, he has set the expectation that he'll take on whatever is asked of him. One day, he decides to start saying no to non-essential tasks. At first, people are surprised, but they quickly adjust and begin respecting his boundaries. John not only feels more in control of his workload, but also finds time to focus on personal goals he had been neglecting. Like John, many of us fear that saying no will disappoint others or make us seem less capable. But the reality is that it often earns us more respect. Where in your life are you overcommitting? And how could saying no create space for what truly matters? The ability to say no also strengthens your relationships. It might seem counterintuitive, but clear boundaries foster trust and respect. When you say yes out of obligation, your actions may lack authenticity, leading to resentment over time. However, when you communicate honestly and say no when necessary, you show others that you value their time and your own. Seneca said, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." This wisdom applies not only to the company you keep, but also to the way you interact with them. By saying no, you ensure that your relationships are built on mutual respect and understanding, rather than unspoken frustration. Of course, saying no isn't always easy. It requires confidence and the ability to tolerate discomfort. You might fear rejection, conflict, or being perceived as selfish. But as the Stoics teach, external opinions are beyond your control. What matters is how you manage your own choices. The next time someone asks for your time or energy, pause and ask yourself, does this align with my values and priorities? If the answer is no, then let your decision reflect that. Remember, saying no doesn't mean slamming the door shut. It can be done with grace and kindness. A simple, "I appreciate you thinking of me, but I can't commit to that right now," is often enough. The key is to mean it, to stand by your decision without wavering or feeling the need to justify it. In today's fast-paced world, learning to say no is more relevant than ever. With endless distractions, obligations, and requests for your attention, your ability to focus on what truly matters is your greatest asset. Social media, for example, constantly bombards us with invitations to engage in trivial arguments or comparisons. By saying no to these distractions, you free yourself to live more intentionally. As Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." This means letting go of the fear of disappointing others or being misunderstood. The people who truly value you will respect your boundaries, while those who don't were likely taking advantage of your time and energy anyway. As we conclude, let's reflect on this vital lesson. Learning to say no is not about rejecting others. It's about saying yes to yourself. Every time you say no to something that doesn't serve you, you're making space for what does. This small but powerful word allows you to align your actions with your priorities, protect your well-being, and build relationships rooted in respect. So, I challenge you to look at your life and identify where you've been saying yes when you should have said no. What would change if you gave yourself permission to set boundaries and mean it? Your time and energy are finite. How you choose to spend them shapes the quality of your life. Will you take the first step and start saying no today? If you've made it this far, you're embracing the power of silence and resilience. Drop a comment saying, "I reclaim my peace," to show your commitment to mastering Stoic principles. Stay tuned. Your journey to strength and clarity is just beginning. Number 8. Stay unbothered. Be emotionally untouchable. To be emotionally untouchable doesn't mean becoming cold or indifferent. Rather, it means mastering the art of control over how you respond to external events and people who attempt to rattle you. As Marcus Aurelius wisely said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Emotional resilience is the cornerstone of Stoicism, and staying unbothered is about recognizing that your peace is your responsibility. When you master your emotions, you become unshakable in the face of criticism, drama, or adversity, and this quiet strength makes you unstoppable. Consider how often you've let someone's words or actions disrupt your peace. Maybe it was an offhand comment from a coworker, a dismissive remark from a loved one, or even the frustrating behavior of a stranger. Each time, you had a choice. Let it ruin your day or stay composed. Too often, we give away our power by reacting impulsively, letting others control our emotional state. But what if you didn't? What if, instead of responding with anger or frustration, you simply observed, let it pass, and remained calm? This is what it means to stay unbothered. As Epictetus reminds us, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Your reaction is where your power lies, and choosing not to react is one of the most powerful acts of self-mastery. Let me share a modern story to bring this idea to life. There's a woman named Lisa who works in a high-pressure corporate environment. Her colleagues often try to undermine her, spreading rumors or taking credit for her work. In the past, Lisa would get angry, confront them, or vent to others, but this only left her feeling drained. One day, Lisa decided to take a different approach. She stopped reacting and focused instead on doing her best work. When someone tried to provoke her, she responded with silence and a calm demeanor. Over time, her colleagues realized they couldn't get a rise out of her, and their attempts to undermine her stopped. Lisa's emotional composure not only preserved her peace, but also earned her respect. Like Lisa, you have the power to decide whether you let others' actions affect you. Where in your life could you benefit from staying unbothered and holding on to your inner calm? Staying unbothered also requires letting go of the need for validation or approval. When you rely on others to affirm your worth, you give them the power to destabilize you. The Stoics teach us to look inward for strength and to anchor our sense of self in our values, not in the opinions of others. Seneca said, "If you really want to escape the things that harass you, what you're needing is not to be in a different place but to be a different person." This means becoming the kind of person who remains grounded no matter what's happening around them. Ask yourself, do I let others dictate my emotions, or do I take responsibility for how I feel? In today's world, social media amplifies the challenge of staying unbothered. Negative comments, comparison, and the constant pressure to prove yourself can easily erode your emotional resilience. But here's the thing. Not every opinion deserves your attention, and not every criticism warrants a response. By staying unbothered, you reclaim your focus and energy for the things that truly matter. Think of it like this. A rock remains still even as waves crash against it. You too can become that rock, calm, steady, and unaffected by external turbulence. This doesn't mean you suppress your emotions or ignore real problems. It means you respond with clarity and intention rather than impulsively reacting. Staying unbothered also transforms how you handle conflict. Instead of escalating disagreements or engaging in arguments, you learn to choose your battles wisely. Not every fight is worth your time, and not every critic deserves your energy. When you're emotionally untouchable, you recognize that some people provoke others to feel powerful. By refusing to engage, you deny them that power. As Marcus Aurelius said, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. Staying calm in the face of provocation is not only an act of strength, but also a way to rise above petty conflicts. So how do you cultivate this unshakable composure? Start by pausing before reacting. When something triggers you, take a deep breath and remind yourself that you control how you respond. Reflect on whether the situation truly deserves your energy. Next, practice self-awareness by identifying the emotions that arise in challenging situations. Are you angry, frustrated, or hurt? Acknowledge these feelings, but don't let them dictate your actions. Finally, focus on what you can control, your thoughts, actions, and mindset, and let go of what you cannot. This practice, rooted in Stoic philosophy, helps you build resilience over time. Remember that staying unbothered is not about suppressing your emotions, but about mastering them. It's about protecting your peace, maintaining your focus, and refusing to let external chaos dictate your inner state. When you become emotionally untouchable, you free yourself from the grip of negativity and drama, allowing you to live with clarity and purpose. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, pause and ask yourself, does this deserve my reaction? In that moment of stillness, you'll find your strength. As you navigate your life, let this Stoic principle guide you. Stay unbothered, and watch how your calm confidence transforms not only your own life, but also the way others perceive you. Where in your life can you start practicing emotional resilience today? The answer might just change everything. Number 9. Be the prize, let them chase you. In life, far too often we chase after people, opportunities, or validation, hoping to be chosen. But Stoicism teaches us that our value doesn't come from external approval. It comes from the strength we cultivate within ourselves. As Marcus Aurelius wisely said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." This is the essence of being the prize. When you focus on becoming the best version of yourself, mentally, emotionally, and physically, you naturally attract people and opportunities that align with your worth. The key is to stop chasing and start building. Build your character, your resilience, your skills, and your confidence. When you become someone who adds value to the lives of others, people will naturally gravitate toward you, not because you demanded their attention, but because your presence commands respect. Think about this. How often do we exhaust ourselves trying to prove our value to others? Whether it's in relationships, work, or friendships, the act of chasing leaves us feeling drained and unfulfilled. Why? Because the more you chase, the less others value what you bring to the table. Instead of chasing, step back and focus on improving yourself. When you invest in your growth, you transform into a person of substance and purpose, a person who doesn't need to convince others of their worth. This principle applies everywhere. In relationships, for example, desperation can push people away, while confidence and self-respect draw them closer. As Epictetus said, know, first, who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly. Are you living as someone who knows their worth, or are you chasing after people who don't see it? Let's consider a modern story. James, a hard-working entrepreneur, spent years trying to gain the approval of his peers and clients. He bent over backward to accommodate everyone, often sacrificing his own needs in the process. Yet, despite his efforts, he felt unappreciated and overlooked. One day, he decided to change his approach. Instead of chasing others, he poured his energy into improving his skills, building his business, and taking care of his physical and mental health. Over time, the very people who had once dismissed him began seeking his advice and collaboration. Why? Because James became the prize. He no longer needed to chase anyone. His value spoke for itself. Now think about your own life. Where are you giving too much energy to chasing? And how could you redirect that energy into becoming the best version of yourself? This principle of being the prize is deeply connected to the idea of self-respect. When you value yourself, you set higher standards for how others treat you. You stop tolerating disrespect, manipulation, or neglect because you know you deserve better. But this requires more than just knowing your worth. It requires living in alignment with it. If you settle for less or accept crumbs, you're sending a message to others, and yourself, that you don't truly believe in your value. Seneca reminds us, associate with those who will make a better man of you. Surrounding yourself with people who respect and uplift you is a critical part of being the prize. It's not about arrogance, it's about recognizing that your time and energy are limited resources, and not everyone deserves access to them. In today's fast-paced, attention-driven world, being the prize might seem counterintuitive. Social media often pressures us to seek validation through likes, comments, and constant engagement. But Stoicism encourages us to look inward, rather than outward for fulfillment. True self-worth doesn't come from how others perceive you, but from the quiet confidence of knowing who you are and what you bring to the table. Ask yourself, am I living in a way that reflects my values and potential, or am I chasing after external validation? When you choose to focus on your growth and stop seeking approval, you free yourself from the exhausting cycle of chasing, and instead create a life that naturally attracts what you desire. Being the prize also requires patience and trust in the process. When you step back from chasing, it can feel uncomfortable, especially if you're used to constantly pursuing what you want. But as the Stoics teach, greatness is not achieved overnight. It's the result of consistent effort, discipline, and self-reflection. When you focus on your own development, you'll find that the right people and opportunities come to you at the right time. As Marcus Aurelius said, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. By cultivating a mindset of self-worth and abundance, you not only elevate your life, but also inspire others to do the same. So how can you start being the prize today? Begin by identifying the areas of your life where you're chasing rather than building. Is it in your relationships, your career, or your personal growth? Next, set clear boundaries and priorities. Decide what truly matters to you and focus your energy there. Remember, being the prize doesn't mean shutting people out. It means valuing yourself enough to let others meet you where you are. It's about living with integrity and purpose, knowing that your worth is not up for negotiation. Let this Stoic wisdom guide you. Stop letting people who do so little for you control so much of your mind, feelings, and emotions. When you stop chasing and start building, you reclaim your power and become the kind of person who doesn't just attract attention, but commands respect. Being the prize isn't about being perfect. It's about embracing your journey of growth and standing firmly in your worth. So where in your life can you start stepping back and focusing on yourself? The answer might just change everything. In the end, remember that stepping back and staying silent isn't about weakness. It's a declaration of strength, a commitment to your inner peace, and a way to command respect without demanding it. By practicing these principles in your daily life, you'll not only transform the way others perceive you, but also the way you perceive yourself. So, how can you start reclaiming your power and peace today? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's keep this conversation going. If this message resonates with you, give this video a like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Stoic in Your Life for more wisdom to help you navigate life with strength and purpose. Thank you for being here. Stay grounded, stay resilient, and take charge of your journey.